the Old West.
Hi, welcome everyone on the first day of spring, and it's a beautiful day. And so I'm going to make a brief opening remark. We do have, Mary Storrs was supposed to phone in, but she can't. And Josh is running late, but we do have a quorum to open, right? 3 is a quorum. So we're good to open, and we will roll along. So my opening remark is to thank everyone for coming. I'm very glad to see active community engagement. I know there's a lot of interest in an important strategic initiative to explore new approaches to middle school education. And Jim and Matt will be presenting on this topic in a little while. Might be sooner than later if nobody else shows up for our other things ahead of it. And then at that point, I will take public comments. We normally take them at the beginning, but I think really with all the stuff that's going on, it would be better to let Jim and Matt present, and then we'll have it. If the master planning, is Jan here for now? It should be about an hour from now. So I think that will provide everyone with the benefit of hearing from the school administration and the school committee discussion as context for the comments. And as always, when you are called on, please identify yourself and your street address. You don't need to put the number. Direct your comments to me. Try to be succinct and not repeat previous comments. Also, to ensure that we set expectations, and this is from the pamphlet that is usually there. School committee meetings are held in public, but they are not public meetings in the sense of an interchange between the committee and the public. Jim and the administration have provided and will continue to provide venues for those interchanges, and Jim will have more to say about that in his presentation. Finally, I'd like to repeat something I said last month, which is that we're all here today because we share the mission of providing the best learning experience for our children as we prepare them for the 21st century. So thank you again for participating, and please consider volunteering more of your time to the town and the school, because both depend on the efforts of our citizen volunteers to support the work of the paid professionals as we continue to make Carlisle the special place it is. Thank you very much. And with that, shall we?
And please note that we're making a movie of this.
A movie.
Being recorded.
Okay. Minutes? Shall we consider minutes? Go ahead, Dawn. It looks like you've got some notes.
I'm sorry that I didn't get these to you before. There's not much. See, they're just a little bit at the end. We'll take it now. Okay. They aren't substantive changes, just.
Okay. So they're not substantive? Do you want to read out the substantive?
Yeah. Redcom is seeking to use insect control, pesticides, or grubs.
Oh.
It's, okay. Changes are insect control, pesticides, or grubs. It's for grubs. There is a proposal to use Banta Davis as a possible site for community center. Could be edited to, there is a question of whether it would be possible. Site for community center, and one place would is changed to could, and
Typos you don't have to bring up, just the substantive.
that's
Okay.
what I mean.
All right, so the only substantive
And
comment
this is also, the bylaw needs to be changed, it's going to be voted at town meeting.
Okay.
That's it. Thanks.
So, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended there. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye, sorry, I was a little late.
Aye.
I'm not happy.
okay. So is Jan here, Jan Cornell? Not yet. No? Okay. So why don't we go, I guess we can go into, do you want to go right to restructuring then, or do you want to talk about, people are still dribbling in, so why don't you give us,
All right, I'll give you the solar update.
yeah, let's go to, well, let Jim, why don't you have a few words to say about grubs and pesticides?
Yeah, the Spalding.
That's always a good,
I noticed
you know,
that
I do.
that's a good crowd warmer.
Well, at the last meeting, there was a conversation about using pesticides on Spalding Field. So
Right.
I was asked to do a little research and see, and we do have an integrated pest management plan It does need to be updated, so Rob Furtado is working on updating that. Because
louder.
I will try, because the last time it was updated was 2002, so Rob's gonna update the plan, but the plan does have some restrictions that is worth noting with regards to what types of pesticides can be used, and the notifications that go along with that to the community, and to parents, and to teachers, and to everyone that works in the building or surrounding grounds.
That's it?
That's it. It
I
was
thought
just
you were
another-
gonna research like whether what McMorro wants to do in the fields was okay, or?
No, once they identify
Okay.
what they want to do and what pesticides they want to use, we will give them a timeline, a space. We'll send out notifications to everyone that this is
Okay.
what's going to transpire.
But are you evaluating that particular pesticide, or that you assume is that part of the deal?
The pesticides are categorized, so
Yeah.
once they provide us with the
Right,
pesticide, we'll look and see if it's a category 3 or category
Okay,
4,
so
which
you'll
we
do
can
as
use and we
appropriate.
can't use one.
Okay.
This will be consistent with our policy.
So he's ready.
Okay.
We're ready.
Very good. Okay, solar?
All right. So, all right, you remember we talked about the solar project last time, and I'll update you on what's happening with the items, in particular, the items for town meeting. The solar overlay district and bylaw needs to be amended to include the school parcels. So you'll see the amended, this is what came today.
This is the last page.
Article
here.
26,
Yep.
right. And Article 27 is what is referring to the solar bylaw amendments. So the school parcel will be added, and it delineates the parcels that are being added, and parcel 28 has some exception to it. It's including the section that is 800 feet from the center of School Street, thereby excluding Spalding Hill and Spalding Field. So remember, we had a discussion about that hill and then the fields, and this was the best way they felt that they could
Right,
write the
okay.
amendment so that it would be clear, or we don't need to have, a survey in particular, because it's not required to be that precise, but we wanted to exclude that area of the parcel. So the other part of this is changing the specifications of the solar arrays.
Is this part of 26, or are we on to 27?
Yeah, we're still on 27. We started with 27.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So on 27, you'll see the parts that are being amended are underlined. So the
Yep.
assessor's map, the portion that is within 800 feet of School Street. Okay, the specifications of the structures are being amended, and that is to include the height of the canopy, located within the overlay district shall not exceed 25 feet. And it's important to note there that that is to accommodate the bus canopy and at the transfer station, the needs of the transfer station. So the canopies in the parking lot are, are much lower,
Okay,
12 to 14 feet, I believe. So additionally, there was a setback requirement, 40-foot setback. However, no setback requirement if the abutting parcel is town-owned or same entity-owned, meaning if you own the parcel that it's abutting, that's abutting, then you don't have the setback requirement, or if the town owns the parcel that will be abutting where the
I'm glad I'm
equipment
not on
is.
planning board, because I kind of,
So basically, it
Glaze
says
over.
there are butters, right?
yeah,
So, if the town owns the land, one parcel that's abutting, the 40-foot setback requirement is, it's not a requirement,
okay.
basically. Those are the substantive changes to
To 27.
27, right.
And just to clarify for people who may not know, it's to not let them make the slopey part of the overlay district.
Right, the hill on Spalding Hill.
And we're going to do the parking lot, but we have the right to do the roof in the future, correct? Some piece of the roof? I mean, the zone,
Yeah, I'm
the
not sure
overlay.
how the rooftop
I thought that.
solar is handled in the existing bylaw, so I can't
Well,
say whether.
in the change though, wasn't that the intent? To carve out the slope, but to allow anything on that?
Correct, that would be still within the overlay district,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So lease agreements are still being drafted and negotiated. I received a new draft today via email, so I wanted to talk about the process from here. I've told them our meeting schedule. They know that we're meeting again on April 10th. Town meeting is April 29th, where the lease agreements would need to be voted. So ideally, we would take a vote by the April 10th meeting in advance of town meeting.
We can always take a vote. We can hold a committee meeting on the eve of, on the, afternoon of whatever the
Okay,
town meeting.
yeah.
But it'd be better, I would prefer
Yeah.
it. If we have enough information, we should take a vote next time.
All right, so I wanted to find out what's the process now? Town council is working up is negotiating. What do you want to do as far as review?
Is there much, I guess, let me try to remember where we are. A lot of presentations have been made. Other people are working numbers, and numbers I heard were roughly $60,000 to the town for both the transfer station and here and the energy credits. Is that, Scott?
Well, I'll talk about
Somewhat?
that.
Yeah. So we've got, well, I mean,
I have that to talk about as
what
well.
I mean to say
The
is,
payment proposal.
so we're not handling the financing. We've been told that it's,
No, whatever we settle on financially.
yeah,
And also, it's dependent on what block we get into, right,
Right.
for the incentive. Wherever we land there, that's still under,
Yeah,
partially under
negotiation,
negotiation.
right.
And I have a question about that for this committee tonight. That will be incorporated into the lease as the final, piece.
right, okay.
However, we have a draft agreement, that's in a form that could be reviewed now that discusses other aspects.
Okay, so those other aspects have to do more with the siting of it and so forth.
Mhm.
So there, at some point, I don't know when that point is, it may be after we vote to approve, and then when they actually go to build. Site plan review would be later, right? It's after,
Right.
after they've done detailed design, right?
Yeah, after engineering design.
Then we still have a oversight or some kind of role in
Mhm.
that, right?
This is just I'm just talking
Right.
about the lease
So all we
agreement.
need, okay, so we're just voting to agree. I think if there's enough information by next meeting, we can.
Okay,
Take
all
a
right,
vote.
so I'll let them know that if they can circulate that and it's closest to final form, we'd like to have it
Mhm.
in advance of that meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Now, we had asked them if they would consider providing a large upfront payment to help us with paving the parking lot.
Ah,
And honestly, I wasn't really sure if we would get that, but they did present us a proposal, yeah.
Oh,
They
good job,
presented us two
Melinda.
options.
Okay.
Well,
You don't get
Wait
it
till
all
you-
that.
wait till you hear the discount
wait till you
rate.
hear it. Yeah, right. Of course, the payment that they would be making upfront would be, valued higher at today's present dollars than, over
Yeah.
time. So, so that's what we have to discuss tonight is option one and option two. And after I received it, I did forward it to FinCom, and FinCom, they met Monday, it was on their agenda, and we talked about it there too. So, but let me just tell you what the proposals were.
okay.
So first of all, we have the blocks listed, and, block one is still open, but it's closing fast.
Right.
The solar committee maintains that we will most likely hit block three. Right. So the incentives decrease with each block as the block numbers get higher.
Right.
But in any case, why don't I'll use block three. I was looking at block one and it looked
Okay.
better, but let's use block three. The proposal was for an upfront payment for block three, and one single payment of the lease would be $191,555.
Yeah.
And if it were an annual payment over 20, it would be 20 years, $22,500 over 20 years.
So like 450.
Yes, exactly.
Scott, you have your HP 12C handy?
Scott,
Do they
you're-
still use those? No? Yet? Okay.
The long term is better.
Taking the 20 years of payment. Right. So you guys, is that where you guys,
That's where FinCom landed as well, yes.
I mean, I don't know that it's even it's really the town gets the money, right?
Yeah, this goes in the general fund.
Right,
And we can talk about that too. So basically, the two options that were presented was the large upfront payment, 191. The 20 years of payments,
Mm-hmm.
22,500, ends up being 450,000. over 20 years. So we basically need to give them our feedback about which one.
But I don't think isn't that a FinCom or Board of Selectmen decision, or do you think we have?
I will let them know, I wanted to bring it to this committee,
Okay.
and I will let them know right after this meeting or tomorrow.
Personally, I defer to the Finance Committee to work that, right? Because the money, am I correct? The money goes back to the town, right? Okay.
All right, so Christine, do you have anything to add?
No, I would defer to Scott as well.
Okay,
Well, it's not Scott.
Well, but Scott's
I
point
know, he's
on
power
long
hungry.
term.
very good, then I'll let them know that we prefer the 20-year option.
But thank you for asking.
Sure. I wouldn't.
So are you replying, you saying school committee prefers it, or are you the spokesperson for the town on this?
I'm representing the school committee,
Okay, very good.
so.
Okay.
All right, so you mentioned that the town, so there's going to be two leases, the transfer station and school leases. The money from those lease agreements, as well as, from the lease agreements will go into the general fund. Tim Goddard had mentioned that the possibility of creating a stabilization fund. I think it came up as a discussion in the Solar Energy Task Force about perhaps earmarking some money towards future energy projects, right? So the way the stabilization fund works is, it would be created, a certain designated use, and then it would be voted at town meeting what funds could be transferred into that stabilization fund. It was suggested that school committee could also consider the creation of a stabilization fund for any lawful purpose, such as capital projects or something else.
They need to be energy related?
No, the Energy Task Force was thinking of that for that purpose. But, we have already said that when we pave the parking lot, we'd like to, we're getting this income revenue generated from this lease agreement, that we'd like to earmark it for paying off the paving project.
Okay, but that wouldn't in and of itself require a stabilization fund, right? Because there would be a warrant article to pave.
Yeah, that's right.
The town would
That's
pay
right.
for paving and the town gets the money. so-
Right.
Yeah.
But, well, when Tim suggested it, it sounded like not a bad idea, and I wanted to bring it back to
Well, I mean,
the committee
If
because.
we can double dip, I would.
Well, it's not essentially double dipping, and I know that Scott has his opinion about this too. But, however it's set up, whether it's a school committee specific fund or it's just a stabilization fund for capital projects, the school committee over the long term has a lot of potential, capital
Sure.
needs.
Right.
And we are always trying to, grapple with where we get the funds to meet those needs. So I thought it was worth discussing.
Yeah, I mean, Josh should be here for that. He probably would have, some
And,
specific
so, and
things
then-
to say.
Yeah, I agree. So just to let you know, we missed the boat to do something like that this year
Oh, we
because
have-
the
okay.
warrant's going to close,
right.
but
Right.
we can continue the discussion because it could be put on a town warrant
Okay.
for next
So
year.
there's not going to be that earmarking fund at the town level either? The receipts will
I
just
don't-
come in? Or
I
is-
don't think so. I believe the Board of Selectmen felt that the proposal at the time was maybe too vague about what what constitutes energy
So
projects.
again, they really want
So they're
energy
gonna-
projects.
Well, for the Energy Task Force.
Okay.
But this is, this is the
School
school committee side, so.
Oh, okay. When are you meeting next? Have you taken it up all that you need to, Scott, or are you going to meet again?
It's not on the warrant for this year.
It's
So
not.
it doesn't matter, okay. So
No.
it doesn't matter for right now?
No,
but we
it doesn't
should-
for now, but it's something
So we can take some
that
time to think about.
we should consider, yeah.
That sounds good to me.
And as a town, we can consider for other municipal needs, but I really feel like.
Yeah, I
this
mean, the
will-
only thing that can, the more little boxes you put things in, the
Right.
more you encumber it for, you don't really know what 20 years from now the
Yeah.
town needs, and if all these boxes are locked up, it's.
Well, it's
from
not
an
locked
operating
up because the stabilization fund wouldn't have money in it until town meeting votes to approve the transfer of the funds into it, and they do that on an annual basis. So it's not like, so it's more saying, well, we have this big need and now we can,
We have a way of doing it. Okay, I think it's worth,
So-
so you bring up some great points, and it sounds like it's something we should consider, as we roll into next fiscal year.
all right,
But
and what
meanwhile,
else?
did you talk about the paving article? Did I miss that? Is there gonna be a separate,
That's on there, so you
That's
see that
on
little,
there.
see that, where is it?
is it in
Turn it
20
over.
20?
See that little tiny thing right there? That's the paving.
Oh, Article 28, okay, so there's its own little article.
It is,
And it's third because if they don't move they don't move on solar at town meeting, then
We want to move, yeah, we want to
then you
move. as a-
wouldn't move this article? The paving wouldn't be moved?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it is moved at town meeting, but 28 will require a ballot box vote,
That I don't know.
do you know?
I don't know. It's going to be voted at town. Does anybody know that?
Money usually requires a vote, right? So there's still a thing where it could all pass at town meeting,
I'm-
and the paving could be rejected, and
Yeah.
then you've got a project on a bumpy parking lot, right?
Yeah, I think that we need to really
So I
plan
think we
ahead
should
and
make sure
emphasize
that-
how we emphasize that it's
Right.
really important to
Right.
do these
Yeah.
in,
I will say,
Concert.
and this is, who is the point person from the project standpoint at the solar?
Bob
Is it-
Clark.
It's Bob Clark or DeCon?
Well, Bob Clark
Okay,
and
the reason I
Jonathan
ask, I
as well.
won't say his name in public, but a good friend of mine, a good Carlilian, also was the project manager for Comcast's solar, both in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And over the weekend, he showed me a lot of pictures. And he said there's a lot of lessons learned, including groundwater, Josh's thing. He said that was a big deal. And again, this is stuff not so much relevant to now, but the reason I bring it up is he showed me what they do to the parking lot when they put that stuff in. And there ain't much parking lot left when
Does he
they're done.
have pictures?
He has pictures.
Great,
So I think
take
we need,
those.
I will, maybe I'll have you talk to him as well.
I think the point is, and
Yeah.
we can,
Yeah,
plan how to present it at town meeting, but
Right.
I think people will understand
right.
that the parking lot will be torn up, so,
Well,
and it's already,
some people who follow it understand, but if people go to the voting booth not having kept up with it and just vote no on the paving project, will be in a bind. I mean, it just says, I think outreach is important. Right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't just rest on the.
right, on the
Okay.
logic of it, you mean?
Right.
Okay. So, what else? The pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes is an additional payment for each of the projects, each of the sites,
Mhm.
smaller payment annually, and the purchase power agreement is also in the works. So there's going to be a public information session regarding the solar project on April 2nd. I'm not sure if I know the time, but April 2nd, if
Okay.
you want to mark your calendars.
Where will that be held? Here? Probably?
I think it would be likely to be at Town Hall,
At
yeah,
Town Hall.
at Town Hall.
Is that gonna be night or day, do you know? Probably.
I don't know, I guess
assume
I always assume these kind of things are in the evening, but
Okay.
I don't know for sure. But I know the date is April 2nd.
All right.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, that's good work.
Linda, you guys should get the Minuteman Media Network to record it,
That's a good idea.
that meeting,
Yeah.
so that people who can't attend can
Right.
pick it up online.
Okay,
It's on the
Okay.
Concord website,
So if
Concord
I
Town
can-
website.
So if I can summarize then, you and others, but you and for school committee are negotiating with Amoresco the details. The warrant is basically closed now. Has it been sent to publishing? Is it already? No.
no, it's closing,
But it's
it's
closing.
closing Tuesday.
There'll be an information session in early April. You'll try to get us some sufficient information for the April 10th meeting so we can actually vote to approve. If not, we'll vote, we may be meeting anyway before town meeting, but we'll vote then.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Jan, you ready?
Yeah,
Okay, come on up.
so.
We project there out of the
Very
audience.
large audience, so you probably want to show something, right?
I
Yeah,
thought
we
you
have
have,
yours.
the PowerPoint that you have, that would
Yeah,
be
we
great
have
if you
that,
could
yeah.
show that. Yeah. And introduce yourself, right, to everyone.
Sure. My name's Jan Corneal, I'm the chair of the Carlisle's Master Plan Steering Committee,
Yeah.
We
and
need more
I'm going to
controversy.
give a short, very short presentation of what that's all about. If we can get this working.
David, will you have at least two of us go to that April 2 meeting, just so that we can have representation?
Yeah. You volunteering?
Let me look
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let me look now. April 2nd.
I just think we should have at least two of us at that meeting.
I agree. Let's see what April 2nd is. April 2nd.
Yes, I'm good.
Um, Okay, so, we've been working for several months now on, there's a 7-person committee that was formed by the planning board. We've been working on preparing budgets and work plans and developing a marketing or communication plan for the town, and getting momentum going. Hosted a few events, information sessions. There's one coming up next week on Carlisle trends, enrollment, school enrollment, financial, and demographic trends, which is a very sort of stark or interesting set of things to look at all together. Last 2 or 3 weeks ago, we held a session on climate change, and there were 5 teenagers, 16-year-olds who presented that. All the materials on our website, which is at the end of this show. It's carlisleplan.org. So this show is really meant to sort of justify or give you a good reason for why we need a master plan. We've done a lot of research. We've talked to a lot of different towns about the value of it. These first few slides are testimonials from planning directors and other town officials from Concord they just completed their master plan. Bedford, which has done a master plan. Foxborough and thank you.
Thank you.
And Harvard, and all of them sort of have a similar perspective that the plan has created a guidebook for them as a town collectively, so that they can move forward with a shared set of goals and action items that are comprehensive instead of being kind of scattershot across multiple interest groups and boards and committees. The vision statement is pretty basic for Carlisle. It's basically to develop a long-range and a short-term action plan for the town to help us as both a public body, but also in terms of the citizens of the town, to make decisions and guide decisions and make policy, inform policy as we move forward, to sustain Carlisle as a welcoming and a great place to live. So the overall purpose of the plan is, one, to create a shared vision, which some would say we do, some would say we don't have already. The second is to have a very well laid out, clear, decisive roadmap for how we get to where we want to go. The third is this notion of an integrated approach. So we're not looking at one particular thing in isolation. We're looking at everything together and understanding the trade-offs and the balancing act that happens between prioritizing one thing over another. And it has to be comprehensive. It has to include as many people as we possibly can and reach as many corners of the town as we possibly can. So what we've done initially, and I think there might be a few people here on the advisory committee. We have 2 committees. We have a steering committee, which is made up of 7 people, and a great group of people that have their sleeves rolled up and really their boots in the dirt, just getting things done, getting the word out, doing all the homework. This is I've never participated in such a rigorous process of making sure we know what we're doing moving forward. Not to mention, I do master planning for a living, so I have that little piece of information in my back pocket. And we formed an advisory committee, which we got 40 people apply for. And we decided that rather than trying to cull that list and make the committee smaller, that we just let everyone come. We managed the meetings. They range in age from 14 years old to upwards of, it's hard to tell how old people are in Carlisle.
Don't guess then.
But it's a very broad age range, geographically dispersed, and they cover a range of interests and particular areas of focus. So there are 4 guiding principles, and we're just in the process of developing the draft, of the RFP, the request for proposals to hire a master plan consultant. And these 4 guiding principles will be in that document to help the consultant teams understand what we believe in and what we want this to be, what we want this master plan to be. So I've kind of gone over these a bit. But obviously action-oriented, so this isn't a dust collecting document that sits on the shelf like many master plans are. It's an actual living thing that guides everyday decisions. It has to have this broad reach of community engagement. We held a public meeting back in June and we had over 100 people come, including 12 teenagers. I'm really big on the teenagers. And so the consultant has to provide us with a really well laid out and effective plan for engaging the citizens in our town, including the ones that don't come to public meetings and don't participate in public dialogue. Third, the plan itself has to give us the tools to measure our success. So we need to be able to, after a year, see where we're at, have some metrics that we can use to really know where we're going. And then finally, when I talk about integrated planning, the 81D legislation is what the state requires, or they require, but they don't really enforce it. So anyway, it's their list of things that they say should be in a master plan was written in the 1970s. So we've taken the approach that there are a whole bunch of weird things that didn't even exist, or it wasn't on, they weren't on people's minds, like technology, or social media, or climate change. I mean, that existed, but we weren't really paying attention to that back then. So the notion is that this plan needs to have that integrated approach, including current and pending issues that we have to deal with. As I mentioned, we held this session back in June. We had breakout groups. It was quite a lot of fun, a lot of mapping and Post-its and stuff like that. These were the 11 kind of recurring themes that came out of that. And all of this information is available on the website, so I'll give you, you can all go and look at it if you're interested. But, the topics range from, preserving the character and conservation, quality of the conservation lands in Carlisle, to figuring out how to deal with transportation, which doesn't really exist in many ways in Carlisle, and what to do about the town center. And the one theme that occurs to me, standing here at the school committee, that isn't on this list is education. Somebody better come to the next meeting.
How are these, can I interrupt you, sorry? How were those 10 or so bullets arrived at?
Well, so these were the recurring themes that came out of that one.
Is that the Chana thing?
No, they had a public.
We had a public workshop back in an ideas session back in June.
And it was 100 people, right?
It was over 100 people.
Over 100 people from Carlisle.
And it was in the school.
So it's assumed that we do such a great job that it
Yeah,
just
maybe
wasn't.
that was it.
Jan, can I just say though, that at that meeting, everybody raved about the school system and that it was excellent.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at what can we improve, and a lot of people there felt like the school was already our cornerstone, our prize, and it didn't need to be. So I think that needs to be said. because
Absolutely.
That did come up in our group.
Our job is done here.
And we
Those
picked
need
up,
to- Good night.
looking at what do we need to move towards and what's already good.
That's right, yeah, that's absolutely right. And next Wednesday's information session will be very interesting because there's a balancing act that happens between the number of kids who are at the school, the amount of housing, new housing that's coming online in Carlisle, the tax rates. There's a lot of things that affect the quality of the school that are integral to other issues in town. So this is why, looking at the master plan in general, if we aren't in a bubble here in the school, we can't just continue to make this such a great experience without addressing, in the long term, all these other things that are going to impact our ability to maintain that high standard for the school. So quickly, and you can't read any of this, so if you're interested, you can look online. One of the main tasks was to develop a schedule and a fee, a budget for the master plan consultant. We did that in two ways. One is that I mocked up a master plan process, laid out all the phases, the work tasks, and developed a fee based on who I thought needed to be involved in a particular work task, and how much they would cost, knowing what the kind of going rates are, and came up with an estimate of $122,700, including expenses. And we added a 10% contingency to that and came up with a budget based on a very rigorous understanding of what would be involved from one planning consultant's perspective in this master plan, a budget of $135,000 for the master plan consultant.
So, sorry, interrupt you, Jim. The deliverable for that money is the plan itself?
Yes, whatever form that takes. It might be an online thing, it might be, it's basically a guidebook that gives us a whole lot of instructions about what to do next.
And is this more comprehensive than the 10 years ago one?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's more action-oriented, I would say, and many more people involved. 10 years ago.
Is it 10? How long is
No,
it?
no, it's 20
20
years ago, yeah.
So it'll also be much more relevant.
I think so. So the other way we looked at it was we did a comparison of the budgets for 5 different towns. We got good data for 4 of them, for Concord, Boxborough, Acton, and Bedford. And all of those had budgets that were allocated for the consultant, and they had staff time. And they had varying degrees of both of those. So it wasn't a good enough comparison just to take the consultant budget. So we did an analysis and kind of mocked up the in-kind costs for all the staff time and came up with this range of fees from 143 to 277. And so we think we're in a pretty good ballpark given the way we want to move forward. So that was it, $135,000 for the consultant master planning fee. We went before the planning board. The planning board thought that was a reasonable amount to go with based on all the homework we've done and the rigor that we put behind it. They wanted us to add a 25% contingency to cover costs to the town and any other incidental things that happen along the way. One thing we discovered from talking to all of those towns is that the budget they set in the beginning there was always something that came up. And the planning board didn't want us to be in a position where we couldn't get this done because we didn't have a little bit of a piggy bank. If we don't use it, we won't use it. It'll go back into the town budget. But so that's why the warrant article is for $160,000. And that's it, more or less. And there's a ton of information on the carlisleplan.org website. We just ordered 100 lawn signs, which are gonna blow your mind, they're so cool. And we have an advisory, we have a second meeting of our advisory committee on April 3rd. So we're really trying to gear up and get everybody out, because this is a really important initiative that will help kind of guide, in a holistic way, a lot of the things most people are working on.
Thank you, Jen. Is your purpose tonight general education, or are you ultimately seeking Carlisle School
We've been
Committee
asking
position?
the various, our goal, our hope is to go to town meeting with unanimous support from all the boards and committees.
Okay.
So we are asking you to consider voting to support this. Many of the committees don't want to do it in front of me for some reason.
Well, our process is that we deliberate if we need to, but we generally, unless it's pressing, take a month because we have it in case we get comments from, we like to let the issue settle. So
Yeah.
Nancy,
We do have a
just
month.
put it on the action. Thank you. So questions from you guys?
Sounds great, thank you.
I have a question, and please forgive me for coming late, it's unavoidable. And forgive me also if this question has already been answered then, because I'm late. Inevitably in the plan, there will be decisions to make, some of which may be controversial, about the vision for the town going forward. Examples might be how we approach affordable housing. Some might say, the state's going to ram it down our throat, we better be proactive. Others might say, it's not going to happen, don't worry about it. Development, some might say, let's become another Bedford or Concord. Some might say, the state already has those two towns, let's be unique. Each of these arguments has merits. What is the process you envision by which these different arguments work their way out?
So the way that, the hope is that the initial phase of the process is about listening and getting everyone in the room. It's also, and hearing all the different perspectives and understanding what the range of perspectives are. On our master plan advisory committee, we have opposing views on housing in particular. So it'll be an interesting set of conversations. The other thing that the consultant will do in that initial phase is gather all the facts and lay out all the issues and all the facts related to a particular topic so that we have all the information we need to look at what the trade-offs of doing one thing versus doing another might be. And it's a consensus building process. So there will be a process of looking at a lot of alternatives, assessing them, seeing what trade-offs there are, what benefits there might be, having multiple conversations with multiple corners of the town, looking at the financial, the social, the economic, the environmental implications of all of the options, and choosing which path to take forward. That's always how, master plans are all like that, because communities are diverse and have diverse interests and different priorities. And so it's not a scientific thing, but it's very fact-based, and it's about educating and moving forward and getting people to mostly agree. I'm sure we'll still have some holdouts. You always do. But some things are gonna fall into place as logical, like, sure, I can't get that, but I'm getting this. We'll hire a consultant who can help us do that.
So inevitably, facts will matter, and it's great that they're being presented, and inevitably compromise will be part of it. What I'm asking is, what is the process by which you work to get those compromises?
So
What do you imagine for a timeline, for an environment, for the structure of that?
So the process is there will be a community, a dialogue process. So the consultant will organize meetings with town boards and committees, with the advisory committee, public meetings. We're asking for 3 to 4 public open meetings. They will meet several times with us. Each time they meet with us, they will be sharing facts, we'll be having discussions about issues. So that's the process, the people-to-people process. It's like a multiple forms of engagement that we move forward. In terms of the actual content, they'll lay out the facts, they'll organize the analysis that they do in in a way that helps us understand what the trade-offs are, what the issues and consequences are for each of the issues we're dealing with. And we'll be looking at those all together. The first phase is about that. It's about finding those, half dozen critical issues that have to be looked at kind of in a very intense way. And with all the data, the facts, the conversations, the proposals for thinking about how to move forward in different ways, that will all happen in that analytical phase. The second phase is a scenarios or an alternatives phase, where the consultant will help put together what different ways of thinking about how all the issues come together comprehensively, and give us several ways that that can happen, where the goals set forward for the town are kind of looked at, and some we're not meeting and some we are, and we have the ability then to talk about the differences between those and move towards a preferred direction. I'm happy to talk to you more about the process. It's a lot to take in, to explain the whole master planning process. But in my experience, even the most controversial issues can be worked out to the level of being able to move forward and make decisions, because there might be one person in the room that won't agree and accept and acknowledge that there's a way forward here, but 99 people in the room are doing that. So it's a long explanation. You don't look like I answered your question.
No, you answered 80% of it. On the rest, is the consultant driving this process, or are they informing this process?
The consultant will be organizing and running the process with our support. And we're their client, so we can tell them if we don't like what they're doing, or we don't think what they're doing is going to be effective. But we feel pretty strongly, the planning board felt pretty strongly, that there has to be an objective outside voice leading the process in order to make sure that, people don't just feel like someone's in it for their own good.
Christine?
No, I'm good. Amazed. Good.
Linda?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you and the steering committee for investing the time that you have over the past, year, and volunteering to put together this effort and to bring it to the point where it is now. We're really lucky to have had your expertise in planning to get us this far. So I hope that we can get the support behind this at town meeting to move it forward.
Yeah, me too.
Jan, so I have one question, or one set of questions, is because and I'm glad Josh is here for this part, because it relates to municipal facilities. And generally, if I understand what you're saying, what you've said, there's a broad net cast and certain themes bubble up, and then there's a kind of a focusing in on those themes, and I presume, he didn't quite say it this way, but I presume then those specific actions that might be necessary are sort of scenarioed into the context of the fabric of the community. I also heard Amy mention, school's great, and so it doesn't need the triage of that, right? But Josh serves on, or chairs, the Municipal Facilities Committee?
Formerly chairs.
I get confused with all your chairman assignments, but no, I mean, you represent the Facilities Committee, which is to draw the, physical plant together of the town, and we have other debates here about open space and recreational field use and all these kind of things. So, and we constantly run into priorities, right? Space or money priorities. So now we're talking about where can we put more athletic facilities, whether we're going to have a rec center, which I know is one of your issues. But then I also know from Josh that there's, fire station issues and police station issues and town hall issues. And then we have a nice, fairly new building that we're in, but we've got not so new and not so nice buildings, some of which get very hot. So all I mean to say is there's these other big things that will require capital planning, resource allocation, whether it's space or money, And when I think of a master plan, and I don't know anything about it, not nearly anything that you would know, but I think that there has to be some overarching prioritization of these needs, because, so I don't get that sense from the process as you outlined. Like, where does maybe if it's a, and I'll just take an example, probably out of context, but where would a public safety building, let's say decrepit fire station, decrepit police station, better to have a brand new
One site.
safety, where do you put it? Oh, Banta always comes up. Well, gee, Banta's, got some school issues. So, I mean, I don't get the sense that that mosaic is part of the process.
Oh, it definitely is.
Okay.
Definitely, that's probably the, I mean, the initial phases of the process, we need to look pretty creatively at how we move forward. We have, I mean, you guys know all this, we have rising tax rates, rising costs, a fixed population,
Right.
rising household, or stagnant wages, stagnant house, we've got all these issues that are not putting us in
Right.
it's not a very comfortable trajectory unless something happens, unless
Okay.
there's some big decision that we make as a town to change something.
Okay.
And that could be a zoning change, it could be which allows for more housing, it could be an embracing of, it doesn't work everywhere, but I've seen a lot of great examples of public-private partnerships. How can we create, as a town, think creatively about finding new revenue streams? I mean, there's lots of things that we need to talk about.
So that will be in
upstream.
the, okay, but that will be part of
Yeah,
the year-long process here.
yes, definitely.
All right, good.
And if we can figure out how to kind of set, more ambitious set of initiatives moving forward, then maybe everyone decides we do need a new public safety building. Maybe they don't actually though, but maybe they do.
No, but I mean, that comes out of this process.
Yeah, it'll come out of that process.
Okay, that's really my question, and it relates to our position in it, is we'll debate that, but seems to me it's a good thing to have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Jan, can you just remind us again, next week, on Wednesday the 27th, there will be a session?
Right here.
At 6:30, right here,
Yep.
and I have a feeling this room's gonna be packed.
So the topic is gonna be,
On Carlisle trends, and John Ballantyne has been putting together a show with some help from various people on the financial, school enrollment and demographic trends in Carlisle.
so past trends, and are there gonna be future trends? Or is this just a look at what's been happening?
Well, it's mostly just a look back, but you can sort of see what's forward when you look back a little bit,
Okay,
unless something changes.
right, well, maybe
Yeah.
that's why we're doing this,
All
right?
right, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Okay. You want to take Jim? Jim?
Go get him, Jim.
Okay. Restructure.
Linda.
For you, it's not. We booby trapped it, so laptop will tilt.
I apologize for the situation of the screen. We set up the room a little different. We didn't take that into consideration. But as many of you are aware, we've been looking and exploring the idea of restructuring. So that's what I'm going to give an update this evening to the school committee on, the exploration, where we are at this point in time. Pretty surely I'm going to invite Matt Naylor up to share some data on that. But initially, let's talk about why we did this. As we're well aware, we are a leader in pre-K for education, and we aspire to stay there. And that's part of the reason we always have to continually look to improve. Amy made a nice point from the master planning. Yes, everybody's really satisfied and happy with the education system, but we always have to look at where we are and how we can move forward. And then this past summer and early this year, the school committee and myself set that as a goal, looking at exploring restructuring at the middle school level. There are a variety of approaches to middle school. Right now, we have a 4-discipline setup with a 4-person team, and I believe everyone is very happy with that and sees the success that it brought to us. But there are other models. We have department models, like at junior high school, we have smaller teams, and we had to look at the model we have, which is optimal at around 75, 80 students, and we're looking at a trend for the next couple of years, which might not be in that space. So that's the rationale of why we looked at restructuring, why we're taking a look at this. So what's been the process so far? First, we need to set a little baseline and looking at ourselves and our product is our students and how well they're prepared for what comes after the Carlisle Public Schools, post-elementary, middle school. And we find that they are very well prepared when they get the CCHS or any of the private institutions they attend after us. Also, we hopefully give them the skills and the wherewithal and those characteristics that help them to thrive and be resilient as they face the challenges of life. Then we looked at alternatives close by, and Matt's going to share some of the variety of alternatives, but looking at similar-sized districts across Massachusetts to see what do other schools do when they have class sizes that are up 60, 65, 67. We also began to engage teachers, administrative staff in conversations around that, and then we also engaged parents in the conversation around that. And now we're here to give you a summary of what we've uncovered and what we feel we heard in those conversations with parents, faculty, staff, and administration. So I'm going to invite Matt. Matt did a lot of research. I'm going to invite Matt up to share some of the research he did with other schools, other districts, similar models.
Grab that. Dennis going to help hand out some stuff.
We have the slides, but we may not need to hand everything out.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. So a couple of things. I looked at this. Good evening, by the way. My name's Matt. I looked at this in a variety of different methods and looked at a bunch of different variables. We're in a very unique position because our middle school enrollment is rather small for a middle school. Especially these middle schools tend to be collaborative in nature, where you have grade level teams of educators working together to support students at one grade level. So what I did was I first reached out to look at comparable districts, and I have this chart for you. I think it's actually on the next slide. Or, yep, there it is. We can jump back and forth a little bit. And I developed this with the support of some of our teachers here, and also I contacted a whole host of other neighboring communities. So I do have a handout if people are curious about it. We refer to this as the, or I refer to it as the crossword puzzle diagram. And at the top, and it's hard to see, it's in alphabetical order by neighboring district or districts that are high achieving, similar to Carlisle. In yellow is Carlisle, and at the top you can see the categories are enrollment greater than, meaning the school's bigger than Carlisle. Whether or not they have an advisory or a mentoring model, that is a key and defining attribute of a middle school. I'm sorry, you guys probably need them as well.
You need one to talk to.
No, I have.
Probably there's plenty of them.
Is it in here, Melinda?
It's in the pitch,
Also-
but it's small.
Oh, yeah.
Some middle schools offer elective classes or some degree of choice in a schedule for students to specialize in one particular area or subject area in more depth. Then I got into the very nitty-gritty details of a schedule in a middle school, such as does it operate on a Monday through Friday schedule? Does it have a rotational day pattern, meaning today's not Wednesday, but today is a day 4 or a day A or B? The number of blocks per day, the length of those blocks on average, and then whether or not they offer Tier 2 intervention courses to support struggling students, and then finally, did they offer recess? So this was a very difficult task because a lot of this information is not publicly available, so I had to do a document analysis for that. And I'm not, if people are really curious about it, I do have this supplemental resource. It's every single middle school up there in alphabetical order. and you can, I'll leave it up here for later, but it has everything in here. It's important to note that some of the documents are from last year, or one from 2 school years ago, so it gives us a ballpark idea of what how other middle schools are structured, and then you compare it to our own. Also, then if you flip it over, you can see the team-based approach that's in play in all of these other middle schools. So this is just how we compare and contrast with other similar districts. But we are, as I said, very unique.
I had a question for you as you
Yeah.
compare to other districts. While we do have some excellent schools in the state, there are many of other excellent districts in the country and worldwide. Have you considered models outside
Yeah,
of
yeah,
this
I
geography?
have. So in addition to this, and that's a great point. These are just kind of our near neighborhood in the Commonwealth that are very similar to us. If we can jump into the next slide, I expanded the net a little wider, and I looked at actually every single middle school in the Commonwealth. It gets a little tricky here because different grade spans at different schools. So sometimes you see a K-8 school, sometimes you see a 6 through 12 school. Those tend to be more out in smaller districts out in the western part of the Commonwealth. I have this large database, and what I've done is I've sorted it by enrollment size. Sorry, I mean, you guys are gonna be drowning in data here. And I can share this with everyone as well, it's up here. The idea here is that with our enrollment being 60, 70 kids, I wanted to find out what do other schools that have that similar size enrollment, what do they do? This was me picking up the phone, calling secretaries, office assistants, principals, whomever I could talk with. And if you flip all the way back to like page 9, 10, and 11, we tend to be in there in the back end of the spreadsheet. It's similar to my earlier point. There's a whole lot of different options that other schools do. But some of these other schools are charter schools, some of them are K-8 schools, so they're not a standalone 5, 6, 7, 8, or a 6, 7, 8 model. So that's something to point out. In addition, I expanded the net even wider, and I did some academic research. I looked at what the body of literature said surrounding middle school models. I did find one in Pennsylvania that's really compelling, and actually, Jen, I think it might be for you. This was actually, yeah, right there. This was fascinating. It's something I put in a call to their assistant superintendent, and it's a research study from Hanover. It's a best practices in middle school design. And they did kind of similar to what I am doing with you right now, is they looked at all of Pennsylvania about 3 or 4 years ago. It's a nice, thick, like 20-page research paper, and it also has lots of nice citations in here. So I will, if people are curious about that as well. What I learned from this, if you jump back to 2 slides, Joe. What I learned from doing this is we need to first kind of separate the structure from the model. And I know there's been a lot of confusion about that, but what I think of when I think of a middle school structure, it's the who and the what. So what the teachers do to support students, and you can see we have 4 core teachers in 6 through 8 that teach grade level courses. Contrast that with the middle school schedule, and that's when the classes are offered, what the curriculum is, and it's more the when and the how. So when you flip through some of these documents, it's in many places you have to look for the model in the schedule. You have to look for the schedule in the model. So it does get a little hairy there, but the short and the sweet of it is there's a lot of different models out there. The dominant model surrounding us tends to be grade level teams on a 4x4, or that would be an English, a math, a social studies, and a science, and or a grade level specialist. And a couple examples I've seen: a foreign language teacher, a world language teacher accompanying the team. In some cases, not so much. Jumping ahead. Is that the last slide? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you, Matt.
So it's obvious Matt did a great deal of research working with the middle school teachers to gather up this data. So what did we learn from all the research Matt did, the conversations we had with the faculty, the staff, administrative team, parents? The issue of the optimal middle school structure is more complicated than we originally thought going into it. Like the idea, the goal was let's explore this and see if we can come up with something that we can implement and pilot next year. And the reality was, as we explored and as we had the conversations, we found that it's much more complex. And our middle school model has been successful, and as a community, we're just resistant to changing just for the sake of change. Right? No one wants to change just because of change. So that's what we understood from all of our conversations. Makes sense. But kind of going back to the initial conversation, the point that Amy made from the master planning, and there was no plan to have the master planning people there and have us say what they said. But it is part of what we do on a regular basis, and what we need to continue to do is to look at what are the trends, what are the best practices, where is the research in education, in pedagogy, as we move forward. And let's make sure that we are on the cutting edge of that as we go into we're pretty much well into the 21st century, but it's still called the 21st century skills. Making sure that we continue to do what we need to do. And I think that's probably where the direction we want to go in right now. Looking at our middle school model, looking at 6 through 8, I think we find that the situation we're in right now, we have success, and no one is of the mind that we want to change and move away from that success, unless we know the changes we're making are really based on improving the experience of students as the be-all and end-all, beginning and the whole question. So that's where we find ourselves right now. And I think looking forward, I think it's up to me to work with our faculty and staff, and parents and community members to really identify and come together around the concept of how do we maintain ourselves as leaders and on the cutting edge. And I do have to reiterate, as we talked about that is an ongoing process. Like some of the parents were in here last week and they saw the presentation on the Castle project, right? The second year of the Castle project. It's art, it's mechanics, it's 3D, aided drafting and printing. I mean, there's a lot of really innovative things taking place in our school. And I think it's important for us to keep everyone aware of those, reminded of those, but also there are some major shifts that are taking place in education. We want to make sure that we do this together. We understand what those shifts are and we set a course to stay ahead of those curves. So I think that's what the committee would be looking for me, is to help guide the district in that direction. So that's the update for you, is the fact that looking and exploring the middle school model, I would say right now, our 6th grade model, the team approach that we have with the 4 disciplined teachers, and we have a special education support person in place at this time. I think we find that successful, and we want to maintain that right now until we identify a direction that we may want to go, which may or may not involve changing the structure. So I haven't compared to where we are, but just setting the course for the Carlisle Public Schools for the next 10, 20 years. What the plan forward, so as I just referenced, what we'd like to do is really keep this conversation going, keep the conversation around what our middle school looks like, and what our entire school looks like, and the progress we're going to make. And maybe we'll do that by creating a committee made up of parents, teachers, administration, school committee, to really look at the vision in our district for the next 10 years. So that's what I would propose that we do, and then I would propose we get underway with that, and then we can come back to the school committee next year at some point in time and do a presentation on where we see our district going, and if we have recommendations at that time, recommendations for where we should be headed, and if there are impacts on how we design our schedule or our structures, we would make those recommendations at that time.
Can I ask a question?
Not yet, thanks. First, school committee feedback.
Thank you for all the research. And I'm glad that we're going to keep the dialogue going with some sort of a committee, because I think that as much as this can't be driven by money, we have to be mindful of the fact that At some point, we have to defend the model that we've got to the town, to the people that are gonna ask us if this is fiscally the best thing to do. So in the end, this research that you guys are doing is answering that question on both sides of this ledger, which is, this is the best way to go, and therefore that's why the education costs what it costs.
Well, that conclusion is.
Right, but the
that's part of the
conversation,
process.
right.
I see it aside from money. If we had an extra dollar to spend, how would we improve? the
Josh,
edu-
could you, we can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't see finances driving this discussion. One could ask, if we had an extra dollar, how would we spend it to improve the education? Similarly, one could say, given our current spending, what is the optimal approach? We may, at the end of that, conclude this is optimal, but I'm not convinced we're at that point. And I would encourage you to not do baseline level analysis, to instead say, middle school hasn't always been taught this way. Middle school will not always be taught this way. Certain things will come about. Some will be financial, some will be cultural, some will be educational research. Perhaps there will be other events that happen that cause a change. The question isn't whether middle school will change. It will change. When will it change and what will it change to? And to the extent that we can understand that and prepare for it and be ahead of that curve instead of behind it, the district, our kids, and the town will be best served. I think there are opportunities, finance aside, for us to actually improve the education. And one thought I had, and I'm not an educational researcher, and I can't say how this would work in practice, is I've seen our kids loaded up with lots of homework. They don't particularly enjoy it. Some parents are on one side or the other of the homework debate, but most of the research shows that time in classroom is better than time on homework for education. The state mandates minimum time in classroom, but sets no maximum. Do we have opportunity to improve what we're doing by expanding the hours of instruction, taking advantage of the fact that we have fewer students in the class to help make that happen? I think whether this is something we go forward with or not, aside, I use this as an example of how rethinking the middle school model isn't necessarily a takeaway, but can be an opportunity for increasing and improving what we do. And I encourage you and the committee that you're putting together to think in that direction, not in terms of how do we bring the last penny out, but how do we get optimal with what we spend, and how would we spend more to get more, or if we have to spend less, what would we do about it? But don't have it be driven by finance, have it be driven by education.
And I guess that's what I would agree wholeheartedly with that statement. And I think that's what the message I'm trying to present in this presentation is that, right? Any change we look at really should be motivated by curriculum and instruction and pedagogy, and what is best for students who are going to be graduating from our school in 2020s and who are going to be graduating from high school, it's 10, 15 years down the road. So yes, I agree.
Further,
That is what we should focus on.
I applaud the work that Matt has done in gathering data and looking at comparable towns. I'm not surprised that Carlisle is a little unique. It's a little bit of an oxymoron there. It feels unique. And to the extent that we can use research to inform our decision, can use the experience of other districts to inform our decision, we'll be better off, but we shouldn't be constrained by either of those either.
I would agree that also. I think we're well positioned to take advantage of the opportunities that present us to really try new things, be on the cutting edge, right? We have a supportive community. We have teachers who are engaged, who are willing to give things a shot, take a risk, and I think we could continue to lead as we do. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that we got to this place, and we're asking these questions now, and this type of institutional self-reflection is really, really important. Not only to identify what it is that we're doing well, and I think that, that has really bubbled to the surface here. We know that we have a great team teaching, collaborative, interdisciplinary middle school model, and it allows us to do a lot of things. But as Josh said, we need to be reflecting and looking at the research and looking at how things are changing, and to make sure that we are taking advantage of that information and changing with it. So I agree with that. I think that, that's all very positive and good, but I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room. Do you know what I mean? I think that there is a threat to our model, and it's based on the trends that have been happening in town over the past 15 years. If the trends that we've been seeing continue, there is a threat to our model. And that's what concerns me. And that's one of the reasons I think that we asked, to start looking. Are we ready we need to have the information to meet that when it comes, so that we don't falter and we don't lose what we hold to be so important in our educational model. So, that's the only thing I would add to that. And we're all on the same page. We want this. The school is, one of the largest assets Carlisle has, and there are like this many. I mean, there are very few things that we say that are a draw to Carlisle for people to come here. We have our school, we have our open space, and zoning and trail system and things like that. But and its unique character, and people coming from the outside looking in don't necessarily know about the community. They don't know how wonderful the people are in the sense of community that is the Carlisle way. They come to learn that later when they move here. But I think that we need to continue this dialogue. I like the idea of having that visioning process, and I like the idea of the master plan planning process and all of these processes that need to inform what we're going to do, because I don't think that it may level off, that would be great, but I don't think that we're gonna have a boom here, with the school-age population increasing. So we need to be ready. We need to know what we're doing. That's why we ask you to do this.
Yeah, so I think good comments and great presentation, thank you.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about.
No, can we hold off on that, Jim?
I can.
Let's finish this piece and then we'll move. Can you go to the prior slide? So I am happy, actually. It was kind of coincidental that Jan Cornell reached out recently and wanted a slot on master planning, and I'm glad that we have that as a context, because I do agree with you. I think this is kind of like the master plan for Carlisle School, at least.
Yeah.
We're starting with middle school, but it's a master planning process. And my same question that I asked Jan is, you identify some context, at least as she outlined it, right? Identify some context, make sure we stay focused on the most important things, determine whether they need adjustment in some way, improvement, whatever, and reinsert those or place those back into the context from a structure standpoint. So your comment, pedagogy leads structure, is absolutely correct. So I think I agree with what you said. I mean, I think that's the right thing. And in that context, I agree also that the demographics and the budget pressures have to be a piece, right? I mean, they are a piece. But I want to go to this slide, the path forward, and just make sure that we're clear. So what I understand is we set a goal in the beginning of the school year to be around this time to be looking at a couple of options and thinking about trying one, and you came back now and have said, it's pretty complicated, so let's hold off. So, okay, that's fine. And now you're presenting a proposal for a committee, and that's okay. The timing of forming that is pretty soon then? You didn't really speak to that.
I would say pretty soon. I have another committee I have to form in the next week.
Okay.
So I would look probably at the beginning of April.
And people will be asking,
April,
so
get people on board by late April.
is it a volunteer? People will contact you to volunteer? You'll reach out?
I'll reach out to the broader community of faculty and parents.
Okay.
And you said it would-
It doesn't go through SAC. SAC is a standing committee. They made people on the SAC who seem to be involved in it.
That was my question. If, you know, you have a committee, the school advisory council, that is comprised of teachers, administrators, and parents already, and, you know, some of the products that have come out of that committee are the school improvement plan, some work around communication. I'm just wondering if it might not be an appropriate place to start. And those are, you know, the parents that get involved with that are people that care about the school. They're, you know, interested and involved. So, you know, you said
It would be
that.
definitely a good place to start the conversation and talk about the committee itself, and from that committee, look and see if we want to make a large
Yeah.
committee. But I think there's a lot of interest in the topic.
Right, and I think,
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know, don't we get these every month? Well, on that though, I would say, Melinda, that, again, going back to pedagogy lead structure, it would be good, it should have, I'm not saying how it should do its work, but the committee needs to have a pedagogical
Yes.
focus. So there may be a different mix of people that
Yeah.
you want in there. And echoing something you said and Josh said, I think we should, Matt did a great job at casting a net, but there's lots of research out there, right? And you made a line, you didn't speak to it in your verbal presentation, but it's on there about identifying funding to conduct research. So I think that's an important point. You know, again, these are big decisions. They hopefully are long-term decisions. Let's not be penny wise and pound foolish on that aspect. If we need to, whether we go to one of our favorite funding sources or we look inside to try to find the resources. I think that's definitely worthwhile. If there are studies available, you know, it must be out there. I mean, I'm not sure we need consultants so much, but certainly the academic research that's out
Yeah,
there.
and I think we have the resources internally to investigate, and
Right.
whether we do site visits, and sometimes innovative schools might be further away to access those. But there may be funding needed, and we'll look
Right.
for that.
And on that topic of further away and innovative, I think, I won't ascribe it to the individual who may not want to be publicly named here, but he gave me a great idea, which is, you know, distressed school districts are not a bad place to look because they are forced to change, right? They have to look at different models. I'm not saying we want to go that direction, but looking at change we may want to look in, you know, unconventional areas to find interesting change, right? That's all I'm saying.
I think
Interesting
as
ideas.
we pursue the pedagogical approach, right, as we look for
Yeah.
the variety of ways schools are
Yeah.
designed to help students to achieve what they need to achieve, to be successful in this new world that we're all part of.
Yeah,
There are many different places that we can look
yeah.
for ideas and innovations, and even right here in our own building.
Right. No, that's right. Innovation is everywhere. That's right. I agree with that. And one more comment from another person who was at one of the information sessions, who's a high school teacher, and she said, and I'm going to misquote her, but she said basically, life is not going from science class to math class, right? Life is solving problems that are interdisciplinary, you know, have a project basis, and, you know, so as the middle school students get ready for high school, right, I mean, that piece is, I think that comment resonated with me. So anyway, please continue with fifth grade.
Well, I guess the other point I wanted to make was, looking at, so previously I had a conversation about the fifth grade for next year. We have had the dyad model of fifth grade for a number of years. Presently in fourth grade, we have 3 sections. We have those 3 sections moving up to fifth grade next year. We also have the retirement of one of our great fifth grade teachers at the end of this year. So with the circumstances being what they are, we are looking to make a transition there for next year, going to a triad as opposed to a dyad. Still making it a transitional year as students move from the single class to the full middle school model. But we're looking to work with the fifth grade team, as it will be made up next year with the triad and our special education teacher, to create that so that our students will have a wonderful experience in fifth grade. It's the situation that we have, and we've talked about a variety of reasons, and that's what we're looking to do next year. And along those lines, I invite parents out on March 26th. We're gonna have a coffee in the morning at 9 o'clock. And then we're gonna have an evening discussion at 7 PM. And then I heard that some people couldn't make those meetings, so we're gonna invite for another coffee on Friday morning if parents or community members are interested in coming and talking about what the plans and what that would look like moving forward.
Is that for that's for the fourth grade class?
That would be for this year's fourth grade
Yeah.
class. and next
Anybody
year's
can,
fifth grade.
anybody can go to the meeting.
Yes.
One more brief comment. Study of biology and of industry teaches us that it's not the strongest, but the most adaptable that survive. We shouldn't be afraid of adapting.
Can you repeat that? They couldn't hear you.
Oh.
Both biology and industry teach that survival is not guaranteed by strength, but it's probabilistically aided by adaptability.
Did you want to give your conclusion slide, or you're done?
The conclusion?
I think he concluded, you concluded.
No, I guess I would say in conclusion,
Yeah.
to everyone, I think.
You're getting 10 points off for not having a summary.
We've been through a few months of
Yeah.
exploring restructuring.
Right.
And along with the number of other items that have taken
Yeah.
place within our district,
Yeah.
and causing a variety of angst and concern among a variety of people. So I think at this point in time, with regard to the restructuring that we've been exploring for 6, 7, and 8, I think we want to take a deep breath and look at, we're not trying to change the model in a way that would hinder the experience of students, and we want to focus on pedagogy as opposed to anything else we're going to focus on. I think we also understand, along the lines of what Josh pointed out, the reality is everything changes. Education's changing. What our students need to be successful in high school and beyond, that's changing. So we always have to reflect. It's wonderful that we could all sit in a room and say, we have an outstanding district here, and our kids have an amazing experience coming to the school where they're loved and they're cared for and they're taught. And we can continue to do that while knowing that there are the skills that our kids need to have to be successful down there, that's changed. The resilience, the collaboration, the communication, the leadership skills, all these skills that we may not be explicitly teaching are the things that we do need to start to teach explicitly. And I heard, I was listening to streaming a presentation yesterday, and it was like life is open book. We've come to a place where sometimes the knowledge that we used to need to have to be successful isn't as important as the knowledge we need to have to be successful moving forward. And it just means we need to continue to adapt as educators. And I have to reiterate, and we do. Like, it's taking place in this building as we speak. So I don't want anyone to get the idea that we're behind the curve in any way, shape, or form. But we want to stay on the lip of that wave, right? We want to ride that wave for all it's worth. So I guess, in conclusion, that's what I would say.
That's a great conclusion. Thank you.
Well put.
Okay. And with that, I open the meeting for public comments. Kathy, would you like to light us off?
Sure.
Kathy McDonald?
So I'm Kathy McDonald at Knoll Farm Road.
Okay.
And mom of 4 kids, 1 at the high school and 2 here at the Carlisle school. 3 here at Carlisle. Yes, so there's twins in there.
Where'd you leave out?
So I want to first and foremost say, I just want to applaud the conversation, number 1. But I want to even back up to say, I want to start by just giving gratitude and thanks to all the teachers that are here for all that you're doing that are contributing to all the quality that we're talking about as it relates to the school that we want to be able to sustain and continue to innovate and move forward. There's a lot of other stuff in the background, but first and foremost, I think you guys should know that broadly in the town, everybody supports you. Contract, whatever, we support you as teachers, and we're thankful and thanks for being here. Secondly, thank you to the school committee. You guys are doing really important work, and you're doing it in volunteer hours, of which a lot of us can't find the time to do. And so what you're doing is hard, and you're turning up and doing it all the time, so thank you for that. The next point I want to say is, things have evolved a lot in the last week in the conversations, last 2 weeks in the conversations that are being had, and that's back to being adaptive and forward-looking, sort of the tone of the conversation, nothing else was standing. 2 weeks ago was very much about, things are shifting, cost, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do, etc. It really wasn't about how do we think about visioning for the future and how do we sustain the excellence and even do more, as it relates to doing that for our children. And I think as we started the conversation, and lots of conversations going on, that's really where the energy was, and I know that that's individually what everybody wants to be doing, so I want to applaud you all for taking that deep breath and stepping back and say, what's most important for us? It is doing that, and really being on that forward foot and finding out what's going to be best for our children. And so I think that what I wanted to do is just do a quick reaction to what you've laid out here, Jim, on the merits, to say I think it's absolutely directionally correct. And on the specifics, I'd say I think you're way undergunning on what it's going to take to do that and do it with the kind of excellence that we all hope that it will be done. And to say this is not an exercise for fall 2019. It shouldn't just be about the middle school. It should be about visioning for the entirety of the Carlisle school. And I think that it's really it behooves us to take advantage of the fact that the master planning process is going on concurrently to say, yes, education should have been one of those, and an even bigger thing around that spinning wheel that they talked about as far as priorities for the town, because the ability to do any of those priorities for the town is predicated on an integrated approach to how we continue to fund excellence in education and do anything else. And so we have to be addressing it in an integrated way. So I would just encourage you to think about sort of a two school committee meeting cycle on how you think about chartering this work, what it's going to take to do it, who are the experts that you want to put together between your teaching staff, between the administration, between experts in the town, education experts, and others who can help to support you, and create your own mini little Carlisle School Master Plan 10-year visioning exercise that can address all the things that you need to do. And won't it be awesome for us all to come back here, 18, 24 months from now, and having been involved in a process and be really psyched about the end product is and how we're going to be able to do all that we seek to do for a school. So that's, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kathy. Comments? Yes, behind Bill.
I would like to echo Kathy's comments and Mr. O'Shea's comments and say that the teachers we have in this town are absolutely amazing. I think that our children will have them in their personal pantheon as they move through life. And I want to say that indeed Mr. O'Shea is correct. What they do is really ahead of the wave educationally. We don't need to catch up. We are first in line. They are first in line. And I want to say that I do hope that as a town, we will also find ways to support them the way they support our children. And I'd like to urge the school committee and the parents to really consider that. What do we owe the people who do so well by our children?
Okay, thank you. More comments? Anybody else? I see in the back. That's great.
Liz Gray, sixth grade teacher. Carlisle used to be a Carlisle citizen. I just need to speak from the heart. I think I represent a very hard-working faculty, very caring faculty. When you suggested the idea of putting a vision committee together, I would love to be involved in that, but I think asking us to be putting extra hours in and doing more and above beyond what we already do without a contract really hurts.
Thank you. Other? Okay, no more up. Yes, Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa Maloney, Bedford Road. Switching topics a little bit and getting back to the Spalding Field update.
Yes.
I just have some questions, and if you have answers now, that's great, but.
Okay, you can pose them. I think we'll take
Yeah.
them and try. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, first of all, where is the public water supply well source for the school? Does anybody know?
Well, we'll take your questions. You have them in written form, we'll try to answer
No,
them.
no.
Okay.
But, so basically my
So
point
you
is
want to
I'd
know where
like
the
to
water
know-
is, yep.
I'd like to know where the public water supply is.
Mhm.
I'm concerned about the change to pesticides. Personally, our family is just over Church Street downstream,
Okay.
but I'm more concerned about what our kids are going to be drinking and our staff and faculty and everybody. So I'd like to know where the public water supply is. And my question is, I've been trying to get some basic answers from RecCom, but I haven't had any luck so far. Will this be tested prior to introducing pesticides, during the pesticide use, and after? And what that process is? Again, I had also contacted the Board of Health and have heard nothing. Just if you've looked at what other towns who are similar to us, where their schools rely on well water as well, what pesticides have they done? So I'm sure there are parameters for all of this, but I would like somebody to get back to me.
I think those are great comments, and Jim can incorporate that in what Rob's taken, I think, a full approach to the
Yes.
issues, right? So,
Rob's the
thank you.
facilities
Oh,
manager.
We can get back to you, Vanessa.
Yep.
Supervisor of Building and Grounds.
Yep.
Oh, is that an official title?
Okay.
Facility.
It was.
Anyone else? Okay, I think we'll move on. Oh, we got a comment in the back, yes, Kitty.
Eric Tall, Pocket Road. Back to the, comments or questions you can answer, Marty. The 5th grade triad. Just wondering, is that just for next year? And how, I don't know, I don't even have a 5th grader going in next year. But my son, when he was in 5th grade, came from a 3-class 4th grade up to the dive. And I know the 3rd grade this year is 4 classes, and they'll be moving up in 2 years to 5th grade. And just losing a teacher that, I know who the teachers are now. We have 2 LA and social studies and 1 math and science. With all those children, how is that triad covering math and science?
26.
I understand we have a good program, but, that's a lot of kids for 1 math and science teacher. And I have no idea our 2 English and social studies, if you guys have any math and science background, no idea. I know, as a math and science person, I would not want to have to teach LA. So I'm just wondering if that's gonna just be for next year, and even for the kids next year, how is that gonna work for them?
So I guess that's what we talked about on the 26th or the 29th.
Okay.
Bridget, did you have a comment? Or are you just stretching?
This is my first meeting, so I'm just listening. Get the nervous guy right.
Amy has a question? Amy?
So,
Amy.
I have a unique perspective here. I have perspective of being a parent in the community. I have 3 children in school, and I also work at the school. So I work very closely. I'm in the middle school office, and I have a great deal of respect for Matt Mailer and what he is trying to accomplish with a new middle school schedule. And I feel that it has been sort of co-opted and changed into something that maybe it isn't. He's doing this research to bring something that he feels is of educational value to our middle school, and that's finances aside. And so all these different models that he's exploring are to identify best practices. And we have an opportunity to explore those, and I don't want to put it so many years out. I mean, I'll be a part of those conversations going forward, but he's our middle school principal, and if he feels that this is where we should be moving, he's the leader of our middle school. So I trust him and his judgment and what he's trying to accomplish. And if he wants a middle school schedule, I'd like to have the conversation about a middle school schedule with finances aside.
Thank you, Amy. I think there's a point, and you're free to elaborate, but it was on your slide, right? that there's a difference between the two things. They have been commingled to some degree, but would you like to make a comment on that?
Just to what Josh said earlier, I mean, we are an outstanding middle school, and I echo the point about our teachers being outstanding. Ed research supports this, that the biggest impact on student achievement is the quality of the teacher in front of them. That is the number one variable that drives how kids learn. So without outstanding teachers, whatever kind of model we have, whatever kind of structure we have, in a way, it's irrelevant. Yes, we need to adapt. Yes, we always need to be continuously improving and getting better. I'd like to see some aspects of our middle school improve. I'd like to see more tier 2 stuff. I'd like to see some support for struggling kids, for executive functioning, for math support. I've been very transparent in the process with teachers saying I'd like to see some choices for kids. I know that it's part of the conversation, and we've been having it internally, and perhaps parents aren't aware of this as a faculty, to try to find ways that we can, as professionals, continue to grow and to improve to help kids.
Okay.
So it's just a little bit insight into where we're going, and it's baby steps.
Thank you very much.
As a clarification question?
Yes.
So my understanding is that the schedule may evolve next year and on an ongoing basis, which is different than the structure and the number of teachers and all that. So to your point, Amy, I think there's opportunities, and go for it, for evolution.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and your interest, and you're welcome to stay for the exciting, ever exciting policy review portion and the warrant.
That's why they came.
But we understand if you have other things to do.
Thank you.
So before everybody leaves, there's one more thing I want to say. Before you guys leave,
Hey, stand up.
I just don't want everybody to walk out of here tonight and think, this is the end of the conversation. I am really encouraged that everybody came. I would like to invite people to continue to come and to be part of this conversation. I think that, part of the struggle that we had, we started talking about this as a committee at the beginning of the academic year, and I think that communication has been challenging, even though we make a movie, of this meeting. I think that it's hard for people, I know, with the time and schedules, but if you can make time and, be part of the conversation with the master planning, be involved with the town, I think that is so important. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay. I would like to take a 2-minute break for those of us who want to take a break. As people exit.
Good.
Good, man. I work to get
It's a good idea.
Did you go look at the house? You diffused the deck house? Did you look at that crazy deck? Yeah, I saw it.
But, I don't know why that one, I just wanted to see it.
I wanted to too. I posted it to the deck house.
That's what I meant to when I saw it. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, this is the best.
But we do need
So I just I Rick, because I'm like, it's also I know what it is. Go look at the garage. I know. Yeah, no, but that's just
the nature of
that'd be nice.
No, but I
She said she's moving across town. I'm like, oh, I know what house they're talking about.
in pockets.
No, and
You know what you say.
I don't talk to her, we're not really.
It's almost
Just
percentage.
a
Have to prop up 15, 20%.
Yeah, we can.
Like, I think I have time to add that.
But I also want to make sure that people want to cause.
Amy's really
Turn people off.
Yeah. You need opportunity to feel they're heard and listen to. Doesn't follow. Listen to.
Frustrating to that they're not listening. And then all of a sudden they and they don't do the research, or maybe they watch the video. That's the piece that gets me. Right.
And I'd take responsibility for it. Initially, our conversation was It should have been more about heavy going forward. The impact, right, that's what we should do.
Right, but I think that as a, it wasn't just a, what's going to happen, it was a realistic look down the road. Because you need it.
Project-based
Yeah, I know, but if you start with that,
But see, here's the part.
I did too, Virginia.
We do amazing things on the fringes.
Virginia showed in the ECC.
I haven't watched it. Amazing things.
Since last year. I don't even watch the
Where,
I don't even watch them. Wait, do you know what it is?
this is the executive.
Did you take a breath? Yeah.
Explore
Here, my daughter. Wait a minute, Nancy, you can do it.
sections. You can still, you can then try with and then middle school.
I think it's, these conversations
So Linda,
profile for and then once we have that, so
I want Jim to reach out
Stuff you're not going to be able to change.
to is she paid Yeah, we gotta, I wasn't able to talk to him tonight.
Take care of it.
They're different.
Where did Melinda go? She came in. You ready? I'm waiting for you.
Yeah.
come up and
Okay. All right, you did a great job, Matt. Okay. The hardy few, for the hardy few that are staying, we're going to move on to policy
other international
issues.
programs.
Try to do this in a reasonably expeditious manner. Jim, did you want to talk about policy committee, subcommittee?
So yes. So as members of the school committee, you are aware of the policy revision process.
Yes.
Earlier this year, Nancy spoke about possibly having MASC get involved in updating our
Yeah.
policies, and we discussed that and the costs that are associated with that. And we live at every meeting. We pull out a policy, the policies have been reviewed by the administrative team, and there's recommendations made, and then we bring it here, and then there's more conversations, more recommendations made, it goes back out, come back a month later sometime. It's a long, arduous process, and we're not sure we're getting the
It's not that
outcome we
efficient.
want.
I
It's
agree.
not
It's a
efficient.
continual process. It's not just
Continu-
long, it's never ending.
It is never ending.
It's painting the George Washington Bridge, right?
Yeah.
It will
Yes.
start over again. So the idea was posed, what if we create, similar to other districts, a policy subcommittee?
Like we have in the middle. in
Two
the
members of
regional.
the, like they do at the region, two members of our committee,
Yeah.
sit with myself, Nancy, and we can bring in whomever might be an expert in whatever policy
Yeah.
we're looking at for feedback, and then we could generate those policies and draft those policies in the subcommittee.
And then the subcommittee can
And then the
present.
subcommittee could bring those forward to the school
Great.
committee and present them to the school committee. And whether we do that, bi-monthly, or whether we do those
Yes.
every month, or whether we come twice a year with those policies, it might be an approach to,
Is this a Mary Storrs idea, or?
it is a Mary Storrs idea.
I have a two-part question for you, Jim. What would your estimate be of the fraction of school committee time spent in committee on policy review?
In the big committee, or?
In this big committee,
I would say 25% of the time.
25% of our time? Dave's shaking his head. I don't think it's 25 either. I might go with 10.
10 or 15.
Okay, what do you think, after we have a subcommittee to do the initial review and drafting, will be the time that this committee spends reviewing policies? Because we'll still need to approve them, right?
The
Well,
hope
we'll
would
be
be
fast.
less.
Okay.
It's not less time, I mean, less time, yes, but
But it's a better
faster. It's a better-
examination,
It gets a thorough. I mean,
yeah,
I-
of the policy.
But I mean, right now, we all review every policy every
Right,
time.
yeah,
All five of
yeah.
us read it before the meeting, right? And so what you're suggesting is, well, what maybe I'm suggesting is maybe we divide it up. There's five of us. Divide up the work.
As opposed to a committee, you're saying
Or
we
is it-
just
no.
assign them and then the
No.
person reports
But we all have
back.
to read them anyway then, too, to vote on them.
That's sort of my point, is that I'm not sure, first of all, how much time we actually spend on policy. I don't think it's that large. And then the savings of having a subcommittee, assuming I wasn't on it,
Yeah, yeah.
go and do the work that then this committee then has to check and review and approve and vote on. I'm not sure the savings there
But
is that
other,
large.
I
other
don't
school
think it's a-
committees do it. Does Region do that?
Yeah, they have subcommittee,
I
policy
don't think it's a
subcommittee.
savings of time in a meeting. I think what it is to better focus on the actual policy.
Right.
That, like Jim said, if we're gonna do a policy on, I don't know, health stuff, then you actually bring the nurse in and the people that
But I
can.
think, I guess, I mean, I do echo a little bit of what Josh is saying, which is, if we're bringing the nurse in to talk about like, you know, checkups, we're not doing policy, we're doing procedure.
All right, so maybe the nurse wasn't a good example, but to
So what
bring-
happens is the subcommittee does some work, whatever it is, and then brings it, and then a guy like Josh says, so wait a minute, what is student health anyway, or some bigger question, which I'm okay with. By the way, I'm fine with those approaches, and we'll be back in the same, I mean, I do take your point, but at least.
What is the goal? If the goal is to do more thorough review, there's nothing stopping committee members from doing more thorough review now. If the goal is to save time,
Right.
All right,
I don't think it's gonna save much time, if
Here's,
any.
here's what I would say, the having to do it every meeting, that, is there a time of year where we're a little lighter on work?
No.
That we could,
No,
Not
you
if we have
never
once
do
a
it.
month meetings.
Let's
No,
rephrase, like,
it
you
doesn't
say.
feel like it in the last year.
Sorry, Melinda.
How many do we review per year? 24, did we say? I know I asked you this before.
That's part of the trouble. Like,
Aspirational.
we may, if we spend 10% of the time,
Right,
as you said,
because we're pushing,
And I
we're
think it
kicking
might
the
be half
can
hour.
every
Yeah.
meeting.
We are.
even if we spend a half hour a night, as I think, and you say 10%, which would make it less, maybe 15,
Well, on
20%.
average, because some of your times have
We
been 0. 'cause
don't
we
actually,
Right.
we don't actually come to the end for the, like, the policies.
Well, the end,
linger.
no, I mean,
You start at the beginning again, there is no end.
no,
But
but
I
the end.
don't know, like, how many have we gone through so far this year?
I know, but we have a self-imposed metric of every 3 years, right? I mean, what's
But we
that?
don't live up to
But
that.
it's not.
To go through all
But-
76 every 3 years, right? We're 24 a year in that case, right?
Right, well, I
And then
think,
we-
20.
I mean, we should,
They don't get near
the
that.
policy should be reviewed periodically to make
Striking
sure that
policies
they're
from our
relevant,
book.
right?
Yeah.
And we did, I mean, to your point, Jim, we rejected a somewhat pricey MASC package that would have been, done all that, like, subcommittee work, but we still, and one reason we rejected it, cost aside, was it wouldn't let us off the hook of still reviewing everything, right? So, you know, it's worth it. I'm willing to try, you know, it'll be tried in a year where Josh is not on the school committee, so. it
If
could
we
be-
try and it doesn't work,
Right.
we don't have to continue to have a subcommittee. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like whatever we decide
I
to
mean,
do.
what are we here to, are you here to propose and we would vote that, or are we just something we would do next year anyway?
I would say we would pilot it next year
Pilot it.
and see how it goes.
You know,
So when we were at our next organizational meeting, we would
Yeah, I
be
mean-
prepared with whatever
Right.
idea
Not
it's
that
gonna be.
No
the
jokes,
Subcommittee.
Okay, but the practical, and this is something for a later meeting, and I definitely don't want to spend time on it now, but the practical consideration of a subcommittee is when 2 people are off, 2 experienced members are coming off, and 2 new members are coming on, that's reality.
Yeah.
And 2 of the 5 of us, or really probably 2 of the 3 of us who are left,
Region.
have to go to region, and 1 has to be chair. There ain't a lot of room left, other
No,
than the
but it's-
freshmen to do
But
stuff.
it's an excellent place for them to learn.
Well, it could be, could be, could be. So, I mean, that's okay.
It's an idea.
It's an
I
idea.
like it, Jim.
Okay. So we don't need to,
And then we
It's a-
still
We don't
have
have
to,
to vote on anything,
so
no.
do we have to still review all the policies anyway, or then does the policy
I
subcommittee?
think we have to see how they go. I mean,
The hope would be the policy subcommittee would look at them,
right,
work on them,
Yeah.
craft them in a way
Right.
that you would get them in your packet
that has already had a review.
weeks before the meeting, read it over and say, that is a fine policy. I
Okay.
really
So-
want to endorse
Fair.
that.
I think that's a
I
valid.
want my policies for review in the summer, so I can read them outside when I'm in the sun.
Good
Okay,
feature.
That's not gonna happen, so. Okay, but we could do more in advance. The policies could come out, they don't need to come in a packet, right? Those policies could
They're all
come
online.
the month before. Well, they are online, right? But you
Yeah.
still have to send the markups.
Yeah.
That's mean you have to,
Right.
Well,
if
they
you just
may
went
be-
online, you get the old policy, and then everyone's creating their own revisions in their heads.
But I remind,
That would make
Cynthia
the
will
sausage.
remind me if she'll remind us if I don't,
Oh, what am I gonna remind you of?
that the policy subcommittee will also be a meeting and will need to be noticed
Yes.
and
Of course.
scheduled.
Yeah, of course.
It's not that we don't want to do it, it's just another,
Well-
it's another logistical thing.
Yeah, that's not a big
An
deal.
alternate view is not to form a subcommittee, but to suggest that two members voluntarily, before the meeting, take it upon themselves
Oh,
to review.
rotating,
Yeah,
rotating?
You know,
Not necessarily rotating, two members take it upon themselves to sit together and go over the policies that will be presented at the next meeting, to offer edits and advice to the larger committee.
setting aside the fact that it will edge into open meeting law, it's just not going to
I'm
happen.
Those
free
can
to
be
meet with
noticed,
you,
that's
Dave,
not
to discuss school
You know
committee at
what?
any point.
I know that, and I can't tell you how burdensome it is to try to organize that every month. I enjoyed having coffee with you the other day, and that was great, but if I had to think about scheduling that all the time,
Yeah.
so I think it's a good idea, and to my view, I agree, it's worth trying.
Yeah.
But that would be something then we could take up, as you say, we have a summer session, that'll be an orientation in some ways too, for new members, and maybe,
Well, let's
can you
have
make a note?
let's have a plan of what what we think we'll do by then, so that we know.
Okay,
Right.
all right,
I don't know.
so do you want to, sure,
Um,
do you want to
I don't know.
propose a plan, or?
But
do
no,
we have-
it sounds like somebody already proposed a plan. I don't have another plan.
Well, we would take I guess that committee would take how many, 20-odd policies of the year?
24.
I mean, there's another thing which we're getting into, we're going to get into in a minute, which is the grouping, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to make, we used to kind of take them, it seemed like in rote, like whatever the oldest policy was, went to the top of the line. But it does make more sense to group them.
So Jim grouped these.
Right.
One of the things
So the
that,
committee, that should be one thing that they could do, right?
one of the things
It
that
is.
would be better is if we, this part of our meeting, I mean, if we do this in a separate meeting, it might be better. Do you know what I mean?
Are you advocating twice a month?
No.
Or you think of it as a policy super meeting.
Right, like,
Policy
break it,
summit.
just do it
Summit.
like
Yeah,
twice
policy
a year, like, do it twice
On a
a year or
Saturday all
something.
day.
Like, if we have to do it, let's take the 12 and 12, 2 meetings, and we just, read them ahead of time and vote them, and just, like have
Wow.
a working meeting, lunch, Cynthia, everyone.
Oh, boy.
I don't
That's
know,
another-
it's just a matter of how do we divide up the work, and how do we schedule the work?
I would just say, I think Mary has experience in both this committee
Yeah,
and that
the
committee.
region, yeah.
And she's seen the sausage made in both places.
Right.
And she thinks the sausage is cleaner in the
I'll tell you, when we go over, when we vote policies in the region,
But is it substantive?
I think it is because I think they've done all the due diligence
They
before
use
the
the
meeting.
mass, they subscribe to that
Yeah.
thing that we reviewed and we
Yeah.
decided not to subscribe to, so that makes their job a lot easier.
Okay.
I've seen the MASC, we all the time are presented with the
Right, we
MASC
always use it as a model.
policy, and we look at it, we say,
This
sometimes
fits,
we
this
like it,
doesn't.
sometimes we say we don't.
We keep, yeah.
To say, we're always gonna take it,
Yeah.
what?
No, that's what I'm
what's the
saying, like, they
point?
subscribe to that, that makes their
We're having
work
this
easier.
debate.
You
but
don't
I
need to
don't-
subscribe. He's saying
But
just
I don't know
take
that,
all the
but I don't
MS
know that they
buses
just
and
take it.
Put your name on it, right?
I don't
No, they
think,
don't.
I don't know that they just take it, so
Well,
that's
who's
just
on-
another
so
resource.
they have two
Mary.
people?
So what you're saying
No.
basically is they're more efficient than we are?
No, I'm not basically
I
saying
definitely wouldn't say
anything.
that.
I'm
Yes,
saying
but-
that my experience has been that we don't spend a lot of time noodling through policy.
Because you're arguing about other stuff.
But,
If you're gonna have to argue about something, it might as well be policy.
yeah. So,
But we could talk about other things. If we get the
don't-
policy out of the way, we could talk
okay.
about.
So Christine, is it 2 people?
I
How do
believe,
they do it then?
yeah, I believe it is 2 people.
And how many policies at a time, would you say? that they do?
I'd say we probably do 5 policies in a meeting.
Okay,
And those are regional, and they might do more for.
How frequently do they do the policy review at
Every
their
month,
meetings?
every meeting.
Every
Are
2
you
weeks.
on that subcommittee?
No, Mary is.
Every 2 weeks.
and they present it, and
Five
is there much,
policies.
there's not much
You,
debate?
no, I don't think, I don't know, Melinda, I'm not watching it that carefully, but I know that the policy section is an effort here,
Right.
and
it's
it doesn't
less-
feel like a big deal
Okay.
there.
Well, we could do it better, so
Okay.
let's
No,
try
I've
it.
been, we've
Let's
just,
try
we've
it.
been talking about this, I've been thinking about this too, so this is
Well,
definitely.
you had a great idea at the beginning of the, year about maybe just
It-
deciding ahead of time what
which
all the
ones are
policies,
the
so people
ones-
could read them. But, so I think we could combine that. I don't know about the Saturday marathon session being so great, because I just, boy. All right, I mean, I think it's worth a try. And we should, but we will have to wait to seat new members and then decide.
Sure.
Okay, great. So let's do, with that as preamble, let's do this bump.
So we have a number of policies. So I put a cover sheet together just to
Yep,
explain. So we have 5 policies we're looking at today.
yep.
The first 3 are somewhat related. The first is the drug and alcohol-free workplace policy.
Yep.
So we gave you our policy, and then we gave you the MASC model.
Yep.
And then if you read our policy on the drug and alcohol-free workplace,
Yep.
it seems to be 2 parts. One is actually about the workplace, and the other one gets into students.
Yep. Right.
So we decided to drop the student piece from
Yep.
our policy and keep the first part of that.
Jim.
That's the
uh,
recommendation.
Can I ask you if the one in this packet, the one in today's packet is different from one in last month's packet then? Because I read this one for last month, all my notes are from last month, I don't know if,
I think you took a change of it, right? I think,
Don't recall.
yeah. I don't know. What he did is he took the top half of the current policy that talks about the workplace, right? So
So
when Linda's
there's-
sneaking around the back, we
There's
tell her,
3 pieces.
can't do that.
There's 3 pieces. And I'm not sure what was in the last, what did we have in the last package? You
All right,
recall?
let's not confuse the last packet.
So there's
Packet
the
we have.
existing policy.
Yeah.
In this packet, there's our existing policy. There's the MASC policy.
Right.
And then there's the recommendation.
Which is the shortened
Policy,
version,
which is the
right?
shortened
So right here,
version.
Melinda, the current policy is a 2-half, right?
yep.
It's workplace and then student. The MASC has
Okay,
workplace, but
I
it's
got
got
it.
a lot of granular stuff in it that you
So you
didn't
just,
want
you
to
just
adopt.
knocked out the bottom half.
Right. So,
Yeah, the
right.
MASC.
Oh, good, then you only
160.
need half my comments.
Okay, so go ahead. You have comments on the top half?
Not much, just that we don't need this part that says the Carlisle Public Schools issues the following statement. We don't need that. It says, it is the policy of the
Yeah,
Carlisle
you're
Public
right.
Schools.
Okay, that's redundant. Very good.
The question that I had was from the MASC policy, it says, notify all employees in writing. And I don't, is
Isn't
that,
the policy itself and
Yeah.
written notification?
is that based on a
That's not
law?
a policy, though, is it? I mean,
So
Is that the law that so?
Well, again,
You know, when you
I
sign
think-
off, if you get a handbook, you sign
But
off.
this is,
Yes.
that's procedural, right? The
Yeah.
policy is it's drug-free, period, right?
right, that's what I was thinking.
Well,
It's not about
it's not
signing
actually,
off.
What?
it actually starts to get fuzzy though. So, let's say an employee or a student
Yeah.
has ADHD and has
No, we're talking about,
Go ahead.
Adderall prescribed. Is
Yeah.
that a controlled substance?
no, but
Absolutely.
didn't we say the unlawful use of, not the lawful use?
Okay.
The unlawful manufacture,
We covered that
distribution,
last
suspension,
time.
possession of controlled substances.
Okay, then, under which law? Because we got federal law and state law that speak differently about substances.
We can specify.
Like if you send your kid to school with, well, you're not supposed to send your kid to school with any,
Well, don't, let's not get confused with prescriptive medication, because we kind of said that's okay, right? Unlawful if you think it's necessary. MASC didn't, but we could say unlawful parenthesis.
yeah, well, this,
Under
we're
state
still in the
law.
drug-free workplace, so my
State?
question was just about notifying
Okay.
employees.
So that
Most
would
of the
make
stuff we're here
marijuana,
is for state, well, imagine a,
recreational use of marijuana is.
not recreational, but imagine medicinal use.
Well, medicinal would, no.
You see where I'm going with this? It's not as crisp as no controlled substances.
Yeah, I know. Well,
You can just wave your hand and forget I said anything if you
no,
want, but this is
no. I mean, that's,
until that actually happens, and then we've got an issue.
But wouldn't you just treat that the way you treat alcohol?
If somebody's prescribed something by their doctor,
No.
It's different.
yeah.
Okay. They don't
I don't
prescribe
think-
gin, do they?
prescript,
I haven't found that doctor yet.
All right, so guys, we're still on the drug-free workplace.
Correct.
right. So if we were to specify state law,
So
Is that okay?
using medicine that's prescribed to you is not unlawful.
no, so,
Right. So-
so.
Well,
would be-
it is federally unlawful in some cases.
No, but we don't have to go there. If we say state law, we say state law.
That presentation was preempted this evening by the other presentation.
Right. That's gonna be next time. Right. Okay. What else you got?
I just had a question about, is it the law that the employees
we have
have
to
to be
cross that
notified in
bridge when we
writing
come
of the
to it.
drug and
Part of the policy
alcohol-free
is to cross
workplace?
it before you come to it.
Well, isn't a written policy itself a notification? Isn't this policy a notification?
No.
Okay. When teachers or any employees are hired by CPS, are they given a handbook? or
Are they
something?
given it, is it Jim?
Jim?
Teachers are given a contract.
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah,
we don't
there's
have
no
a teacher's
handbook.
handbook.
Well, not teachers then.
We don't have we have a
New business
non-contractual
manager.
handbook.
I don't know. the teacher-
So there's
don't
a
have a teacher.
non-contractual handbook, it's on the business office site.
There's no contractual handbook.
No.
There's no general
there an employee
employees
handbook?
handbook.
No, the teachers is their contract, and the non-cons have a non-con handbook.
Does the contract refer to a
No.
drug-free? No. Is there any reason why there couldn't be just an employee's
No.
handbook?
No.
Is that,
There isn't a
Well,
reason why
except-
there couldn't be.
There could be, because,
one, yeah.
well,
I mean,
there's a
is that-
reason why
is
there
that
couldn't
what
be,
I'm
is
looking
if, I could imagine a teacher saying, it's not in my contract, I don't have to
So
follow
we
the
have
handbook, it's not in my
HR
contract.
postings up in the business office
okay,
for all state laws.
okay.
This is the drug-free
I mean,
workplace.
I guess I have to ask for your help here if you know it or care to volunteer it, Linda. I understand about the contract and a collective bargaining agreement with that set of employees, but is there anything in that that precludes a general employee's, like, procedures about conducting yourself at the workplace?
No.
So
So
you could.
We could have, yeah,
So-
we could create a,
I don't want to make
Teacher
more
handbook.
work. All I want to say is that the MASC policy references the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988. And if that in fact says that we need to notify employees in writing of this policy, then
Well, but
then we
it's
should
already.
just put it in here and we
But
should
it
make
says in
sure.
accordance with, so you're saying do the MASC policy and have everything.
No, I'm saying, does it, is that,
you're saying, look at the,
does that
Look at the
law
law
say,
and
we
see
need to
what
like, say here,
Okay.
you know, sign a
Right, so
paper that
why-
you got this? Because, you know, like you have to,
I would,
They sign off, the teachers have to sign off on the policy
Yeah.
that we read them.
okay,
oh,
so
so
there you
you
go.
do have to do that.
Okay,
This started this
To
school
every
year.
school.
Okay, so what I was
Okay,
asking,
that's-
maybe I didn't ask it right. So you're saying everybody,
There's no
All the policies.
Okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said
and
handbook.
procedures that you-
all employees acknowledge
Yes.
that they understand
And
the,
the
agree
policies.
with, understand and agree with the policies of the school.
okay.
Yes.
So that is itself notice.
That's
Okay,
good. So then,
Thank you.
just then the last question is, you know, is that need to be in our policy or not?
Well, it
Notify
sounds
employees in
like-
writing.
It sounds like no. I mean, again, that's where, if we did have the Cadillac plan, we would shove it over to MASC and they would tell us whether, they would answer that question.
Yeah.
right? In other words, what Melinda asked.
Yeah,
But-
I just
Yes.
think, you know, you call it out that they have been
Okay.
notified because,
But, I mean, we have a policy that's worked for us at least since 1997.
well, then we don't need to review them.
Well, no, that's not true. I'm just saying, I think if we drop, in my opinion, if we drop the bottom half,
We're gonna do Massachusetts.
because that goes in a different policy, we're talking, but what else you got?
Oh, you don't?
Nothing?
All right, no, nothing, just that we know that we need to continue to make sure that everybody signs
I
up and
guess
they
we
receive our
should,
policies.
we should read the, maybe we should ask Andy, I suppose, you're looking at it now, whether we have to have a written note, I mean, some.
All I want to know is, does that need to be in our policy?
I don't know, okay,
we'll look into it.
okay. And my comment was that there's not mention here of assistance for those who might have a problem or a drug-free awareness program, which is in the MASC policy. Is that needed? I guess maybe, Jim, in looking at this MASC, what didn't you like? You just didn't want all the restrictions of notification that it imposed, although you put them in anyway.
No, I think that was our conversation. It made it more cumbersome for us. And since
But doesn't it anyway say that here? It's got, you've got the same notification of 5 days, 10 days,
No,
and
that's
30 days.
different.
Yeah, but the notification of available drug rehabilitation programs, that we don't have now.
No, that's a different type of notification in there.
So which one is
So
that?
we didn't establish a drug-free awareness program, so we weren't looking to establish a drug-free awareness
Okay,
program.
so we're
We
not
saw
doing
that
that.
as another
I see.
layer
Okay,
that
so
we
we
were
don't do
looking to.
Okay, but what about, but there is assistance offered. You have a provision if a
We have,
staff,
through Maya.
We have employee
insurance
assistance
company for the
program,
town, It's an employee assistance.
so there is one of those. Okay,
Yep.
but we don't, may not need to mention it in the context of policy.
We do or we don't.
Maybe not, if it's just a benefit.
Also, if we mentioned it, what happens when we change insurance companies?
Right.
Okay.
Right,
Well,
well,
we don't have to be specific to the insurance
the
company.
people will be referred to
Okay.
HR.
I'm okay with, I guess I'm okay with what you did.
I'll look and see if notification
Do
needs to be
you
included as
want-
part of the Act of 1988.
Okay, so we don't want to vote on, do we want to vote on it tonight or not?
No,
Let's
No.
wait.
Oh, I don't want to read this one again.
you don't have to. You've read it twice.
We've read it. Okay, I mean,
Do you
we,
wanna
Remember,
vote
you don't
on-
have to read it again.
I'm fine with voting it
Oh, all right,
myself.
all right, well, let's
But-
not kick the can again.
Okay.
So, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the revision here with the
The
provision that,
two-paragraph revision,
Is it-
with the redundancy removed?
with the redundancy removed and whatever the resolution is of that question about notification,
What
Yes or
about specification of state law?
specification of state law.
Right.
Federal.
Federal.
Great.
Is it federal or state?
It's a federal.
You're going to go with federal? It is
Well, that's,
federal.
it's an,
This is-
that's a federal act.
Okay, so we don't need to say it because it's in the act.
Well,
I'm gonna look into it and
the
see.
Drug-Free Workplace Act is federal, but with,
Well, it says in accordance with, so one assumes it's
Yeah, open
federal.
to-
You're on the medicinal use of marijuana. That's the question. If federal government prohibits it as,
we get a cancer
illegal.
patient as an employee, and you want to,
Okay, I don't think we can vote tonight. We need to research that.
but it's interesting
Research.
because the MASC policy, which we're using as reference, doesn't seem to address that either.
yes,
Well,
which
it's
goes to
in
another
news.
point of mine, which is,
Yes.
They're behind the times too.
Well,
There's nuances to everything.
Well, maybe
I'm
we,
sure,
you know,
I'm sure after a
maybe
couple events and lawsuits, they won't be
Do you
behind the
wanna-
time.
do
The
we
whole
wanna
point
send
is
this
to
one to them,
be
then?
proactive about this.
because
I think, well.
That's
it's
a question
it's-
that-
It's a council
That,
question.
maybe that is a council question, maybe we're now
Yeah.
at the
Yeah,
council.
we're now at council. so
yeah,
I
that,
think-
or that's the next level.
How do we
I mean,
address that?
so,
Okay.
okay.
Let's
All
move
right.
on to the next one, maybe this
Yep.
will be quicker.
All right, I withdraw my motion.
Okay,
All right, so the next one was drug and alcohol use by students. So this is identifying what's inappropriate for students to have in school.
yep,
You can see the alcohol, tobacco, and drug use by students of the MASC. So there's our policy, which is very succinct, MASC policy, and then a proposed new version for us, which includes drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and nicotine, which we've also folded in,
Vaping.
the vaping is folded
Yeah,
into here
and
also.
vaping paraphernalia.
okay.
So we try to
Comments?
keep it short and sweet.
So this is, okay. All right. Any people have comments? Questions?
So the MASC is the front and back of this, there's two, it looks like
Yeah,
it's
it's a two-pager.
two-page.
It's a two-pager.
So the MASC is, I believe, is the one page. So there's
Yeah.
our original policy, which is the first one, bold-faced drug and alcohol use by students.
Yeah.
The backside of that is the JICH alcohol, that's the
Oh,
MASC.
okay, I see, okay. Oh, so it's the one page.
And then we're back to our proposed, which just includes,
All right, so the third one is what you're proposing as the revision?
yes.
All right.
So you're separating drug and alcohol from tobacco?
I think we know we folded it all
No,
together,
folded it
drug,
in.
alcohol, tobacco, and nicotine.
So can I ask,
But then you have a third policy. I know,
Where's the third policy?
tobacco products, you wrote it.
That's the
Well,
next, that's
it's the
another,
next
that's a
one.
separate policy which deals with, as if you flip the next page, the next policy, which is tobacco products, simply says that the use of any tobacco products on school grounds by anybody, adults, visitors, teachers. So one applies to just students, and the other one is really for the whole campus, says this is not acceptable.
Can we add a word to the second paragraph of this policy, assuming I'm looking at the right page?
Yes, that is the correct one.
He's talking about the revised drug, alcohol, tobacco.
The one that says approved, but it actually hasn't,
Right.
wasn't
Oh,
approved,
sorry.
it's revised. In the second paragraph, prior to the word drugs, at the end of the first line, place the word illegal or illicit.
Unlawful?
Unlawful works as well.
We need to reference, do we need to
Shows up
reference?
after having had oxycodone. No, the second paragraph.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But do we have to?
First paragraph is fine, because that's
Okay.
consumption on, and it has to be consistent with health policy manual. The second one is, so I'm fine with the first paragraph. The second paragraph, I'd add the word
Yes.
illegal, illicit, unlawful, whatever, before drugs, after influence of.
What do you like?
But then you get in the same nut roll about recreational marijuana?
So this is, what I envision here is, kid breaks his leg, has, whether it shows up having had an oxycodone in his system, we say, that's it, you're expelled.
But he might have
I
been
think I would keep my
prescriptive.
kid home to be
Exactly, that's what I'm
safe.
saying.
Unlawful.
Oh, okay, I see
That,
what you're saying.
that, thus.
But let me flip the other way. What about, there must be, is there an age requirement?
None of our kids are gonna show,
Recreational marijuana?
if any of our kids in K through 8 show up under the influence of marijuana, that's unlawful.
According to whom?
The law.
The law
I
is
thought they
18.
allow it, oh, it's
No.
18.
Well, actually, no, it isn't, because for medical
Well, medical.
cannabis, you have a lot of kids with seizure disorders.
I'll talk to the attorney.
Do you know what, how CBD oil is now, like, categorized?
Okay. In this policy,
But if that's the case, then it would be lawful.
That's why I'm saying,
Right,
add
that's
the
what
word
you're
on
saying,
the
just add
other.
Okay, okay.
That's, that gets it.
Okay.
That covers
It's like the
you.
brain
I had
teaser.
one
So that-
word,
all right,
we're
so you
good.
just need one word, okay.
That's good.
So my question is, it's a pretty spare policy, and it doesn't speak to, and this may be procedural, the responsibility of the staff to, you know,
To think?
to know, well, think, it's not a good word. No, to, you know, to identify assistance, education, and none of that is mentioned here.
Correct.
And that's okay?
I would
Is
say
that-
yes.
So the policy of like DARE, what's the thing that Officer
DARE
Coleman
is,
does?
yeah.
That's not
That's
a
a
policy that
program.
will.
That's
That's not, it's a program, it's an
Okay.
instructional
All
program. So I think what
Okay.
we're saying here is,
All right.
this is not acceptable. If you violate this policy, there will be
Okay.
consequences.
Okay, but your only
And-
consequence is that you can't participate in a school-sponsored activity.
Subject to disciplinary action means that it will be
Okay.
determined at the
Okay.
time what's happening.
Okay,
We can vote on that.
I'll take a motion to approve it with the addition of the unlawful.
So moved.
Second.
Oh.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Got one done, all right.
See if we can get
That
two in a
was
row.
like two or three
Let's get
sentences
two in a
in a
row.
row.
All right, let's go for two in a
So
row.
this one, the next one, the policy on tobacco products, just says that you're not allowed to use tobacco products on school grounds. Anyway, so if I see a gentleman in the parking lot,
Is this the one?
that's the MASC policy. So ours is the very succinct one?
Go back to this one.
No, go back a page one that looks like this.
Here it is, right here.
So I remember having asked this question before, but I don't remember the answer.
This one?
Spalding is school grounds, right?
Yeah.
Spalding is school, like the
Yes.
fields?
Yeah.
So,
You're not supposed to smoke
Yes, it
there.
absolutely is.
okay, not supposed to smoke.
You're not supposed
So,
to smoke there.
Including parents.
including
Including
parents,
parents.
Right.
including at
But
Not
Banta,
during
Banta
school.
school grounds too, right?
Anytime.
School
Okay.
grounds.
Okay, good.
So who's there to enforce that, and what are the consequences of that? It just means that if someone's there, like if I walk by
Probably
someone,
shouldn't.
I'd be like, hey, you can't smoke
I
here.
mean, hardly, what's the percentage of parents in Carlisle smoke? It's like infinitesimal.
But it just gives you the, like, so
Yeah,
if
the
there's someone,
authority.
if someone's watching the soccer game and one of the parents is smoking,
Somebody can say, cut it out.
yeah, you can just say,
You can't do that here, this
can't
is
do
school
that.
grounds.
Yeah,
Right.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. You didn't have vaping in this one, although you did, vaping is not considered a
Is
tobacco
it,
product?
can you call that a nicotine product? Is that like a tobacco and
I
nicotine?
think that's why he's got it in the other
I
one.
think we call the other one nicotine,
Yeah, this is just, nobody can smoke.
yeah, we didn't really think about the vaping piece here.
So what if somebody's vaping and it's bulbing?
If we add it, we can
I'd probably tell them
not
you
to
can't
too.
do that. It maybe I'd be stretching it, maybe we'd be.
And then say,
where's
just
the
show them
cat?
what's written.
No, we're gonna take care of that right now.
Why don't you just add it? If you don't want vaping, just add it.
Or just say tobacco or nicotine products. Second paragraph after tobacco.
We put in the first paragraph and the second paragraph.
And the title.
So policy on tobacco products is just anybody or any other individual. So this is just a policy to say, don't smoke anywhere on school property. And then the one on drug, alcohol, tobacco, and nicotine use by students covers you already for vaping because it says.
Well, for that, but if the
Nicotine.
world
All right,
consists of employees of the school, students of the school, and everybody else, right? So he's separating employees, we dealt with workplace, no drugs in the workplace. Then students, no smoking, no drugs, no nothing in the workplace. And now, anybody else, no smoking.
So maybe we want to say, no, instead of using the term tobacco products, we should be talking about smoking and vaping.
Yeah, for the
As a-
policy that covers everybody in the
Right.
universe, we don't want anybody vaping on school property.
Right.
Or
So we should-
smoking.
Or
we should-
smoking, just
right.
to say smoking.
But if
and
you
vaping.
were, if you're wearing your nicotine patch, we're not gonna come, that's what I mean, like, I think it's the,
Okay.
it's the method of the act.
Wow.
So if you're smoking tobacco, or if you're smoking marijuana, like,
You're smoking.
you're smoking and you can't do
But
that.
what if you take it,
So no
what
smoking.
do they do
And
now?
if you're
Edibles,
vaping the
they call it
nicotine,
edibles,
you
right?
can't.
If you're vaping, is that called smoking?
No,
No,
it's called
It's called
vaping.
vaping, so you have to use the word vaping here.
Smoking and
But what
vaping.
if somebody's having edibles? I mean, where do you?
Then I will know, I don't need to know. Like, there's lots of things we don't know, like people coming by, or who's at the soccer game.
I'm
we don't-
okay.
Sometimes don't ask, don't tell might be a
Okay,
good thing. But I think we should change the language
Okay.
to smoking and vaping.
so is that what
So
you
it's
want to
not
say?
tobacco and nicotine, it's smoking and vaping.
Let us go
Policy
back,
is-
let us go back to the drawing board, maybe.
Smoking
So
and
do we
vaping.
want to vote it, or you want to work on it and present it?
Policy on smoking and vaping?
Policy,
Oh, we're talking about this one, right?
you
So
know,
replace tobacco products with smoking and vaping?
yeah.
So you know what, I want you guys to do?
Form a
Can you number
subcommittee?
these policies, please?
Yeah.
For a subcommittee. No,
Right.
let's number the policies.
Well, they have a number,
Well, Jim
don't
did
they?
his little explanation note, but
Yeah.
apparently that doesn't.
We're gonna
The
number
problem
the
is the
policies, and then if we have
Jim-
edits.
clear.
Smoking, vaping, and chewing?
That's what I was thinking, it's chewing
Okay,
tobacco,
that's-
right? 'Cause that's.
It's a good one, good one.
No snuff, what's snuff? Is snuff chewing?
Snuff's okay, we're not gonna get involved. If you have a little tin, if you have a little metal tin and you put in your little crook and you.
You know a lot about that.
Sherlock Holmes,
You're good with that?
I think it would complicate
Did
the
a lot
law.
more than that.
What was that?
What about a hookah? What's a hookah? Is that like
Hookah. Hookah, you need a big contraption to do that. So
Wait, I don't want to know that you
No
know.
dipping, no dabbing,
They sell it in the
no.
stores.
I don't know. I think you better rework this
So
one.
listen, here's what, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you right now something important.
Yeah.
Can we please number or letter all the policies? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
or number
That'll be
number
job
them?
one of the policy subcommittee.
If we are bringing a policy to this committee for review that has edits in it, use the track changes so that we see what the edits
Right.
are
Now, that's
when we
fair,
print
yeah.
that in, so that we're not wondering what we're voting about or what we're
Right.
talking
And
about.
it's one piece of paper.
Exactly,
Very
right.
good.
So I think last time when I edited that building policy, it was all on one page and you could see.
We've had
what-
that
May I
sometimes.
expand on Melinda's suggestion? That we have here a collection of policies, as we're reviewing them, we gotta have to check that we're looking at the
We're
same
like
page.
25% of the
Can
time,
we
by the way.
number them and number the revisions?
No, that's right. That's
Oh, like revision one or
Okay.
revision two,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think
All right,
that's a
you
good,
getting
it's a good summer project. We should really
Oh, so we're
We'll
just
do it
summer
for the
now.
next meeting.
Well, Nancy,
We'll have
I
it for the
mean,
next-
the policy
Nancy and
summit.
Jim and whoever
We'll do it for the next
volunteers.
meeting.
All right.
Will you?
Well, we'll have, what we present at the next
What
meeting
you
will be
present,
numbered.
Right, but I'm saying maybe
The
different, which
revisions will
is,
be numbered, and we'll use the track.
there's gonna be a grouping exercise, right? We're gonna try to look at policies as a group. I mean, I think it is good to treat them as a group, because if these policies had been separate, it would be even a bigger mess,
This is a
right?
good idea because we have
So I
some
think
things
we need to
applied.
reorder the policies.
We have the
by-
draft reordering along the lines of
Okay, good.
the MASC.
And then you can
law.
number them that way, and then we'll have a master numbering set. So we should, all right, so we got one done. You want to try to do domestic violence? That seems to be,
We should be pretty close on this one.
So this is one we lifted directly from the MASC.
okay. Okay. And so,
To what extent is this already covered in contract?
Don't believe it's in the
but it
contract.
doesn't, it's not just
Is
teachers.
this, I understand, but I was wondering to what extent it is covered. I understand it applies to more than just teachers, more than just contractual employees.
It's not in the,
I don't believe it's in the contract.
it's a state law.
I know this is true, but this is crazy.
But teachers will sign a thing every start of the year saying they're going to use it.
Well, then just put it through, like, grammar check. Is it
Okay.
all-
So do we have any, are there any comments on,
Well, my
This-
comments are from last month, so I have to
Well, it hasn't
remember.
changed, so we'll
I
be
know, but I
same.
have to remember, have to remember what I was thinking.
that, I can't help you.
Yeah, I know. So, again, so I crossed this out, I don't know. The superintendent shall ensure this notice is provided to all employees in the next school year and beyond by appropriately amending the district's employee handbooks by whatever title they may be known or by direct note. I mean, do we need that? That's, superintendent shall ensure
Yeah.
that notice is provided to all employees, period. Right?
Yeah, you're right, that's
And,
with process, yeah.
Yeah.
And the question I had here is something in the law about this? Because it says,
Yes.
domestic violence law and securing the employee's signature, acknowledging receipt of the handbook / notice. Handbook we don't have, but the notice would,
Yeah,
we
so
should
does
say
that
use the
even
word.
need saying, since that's the practice
So we should
anyway?
use the word policy because we
Then you
don't.
have to say it in everyone, right?
And
Sue is saying it is the law. What's the law?
There's a
we
mass state law.
That we have to get employee's signature that they receive this policy. No.
No, I'm talking about that there's a domestic violence law
Yes.
Okay.
But-
that we follow. Any policy in there, not just teachers, all employees
Right.
sign a thing saying they've received.
Right, for all
The policy.
policies.
Yes.
So we don't need
So
to
we
specify it.
That's correct.
Right, all right,
Well,
so
we're
you're
gonna
right.
change
Sure.
this, I don't know if the law is saying that we have to, but the superintendent shall ensure the notice is provided to
Um,
all employees, period.
Right,
strike the last paragraph.
and strike the, we'll strike the last or the,
Because there's no
last paragraph, no
handbook, so
employer
it's all
shall
referring
coerce.
to a handbook here, which we don't have.
does that need to be in? I mean, why is that even,
I don't know, so we
That's
don't
why
have
I
a
say strike
handbook.
it.
all right,
Mhm.
I'm good with that. So we end in that, at the-
But my question was, is that the law, that we have to get an employee's signature acknowledging receipt of the policy? Again, just like the same question I had.
It doesn't
the other-
matter.
If we do, then we
because
do. We don't have to have said in our policy.
right,
Okay,
right, we do that anyway. So
Okay.
either we have a belt and
We don't have a
suspenders
law that
or
we
we're
have to comply
compliant. It
with
doesn't
fire
matter.
code, but we do.
okay.
Right,
We have a policy.
okay.
Our signature.
In that paragraph,
What?
the superintendent shall ensure that this notice is provided to all employees,
Period.
Period.
And then.
That's all you need.
right? We don't need the rest of it.
And the
Yeah,
rest
the
of
rest
it-
of it you don't need.
I'll never say.
Last paragraph for
Probably.
Allison too.
Right, yes.
Oh, wait a
No
minute.
idea.
Well, that's
what do you
what's being proposed.
What last paragraph?
This whole thing.
This
needs to
thing?
be-
Oh, who said that?
Josh.
Okay,
Glad you're getting
I don't know.
I have a very dull life and I work very hard to do that.
Why would we get rid of that?
Well, it does protect the position, so maybe you do need it, or is that anyway in some leave acts?
Which one are you looking at?
The last paragraph that Josh wants to
No employer
strike.
shall coerce. That sounds like more like the law than, we are the employer. What does it mean that our policy
Well,
is that
maybe
no
that's
employer shall
poor,
coerce?
no, maybe that's poor crafting, but at the back of that, upon employee's return from such leave, she shall be entitled to restoration. Again, that's
this is just
that's
saying-
the law as well, right? You can't lose your job because you're on some
No,
medical.
no.
No,
Right.
what this is
So,
saying is
we don't need
that
a
you
policy
can't
that-
make somebody
It says- it's already
contact
law,
their
yeah.
alleged, you can't make them,
But it's in the law anyway, right?
Yeah.
The law says we need smoke detectors. We don't need a policy on it.
Right. Okay, so I agree to strike the last paragraph. And that- I mean, and then as long as we're on that, does all this other stuff in, page 2 of 3, protective order and a document on the letterhead of the court and police report, do we need all that stuff, or is that too much process?
I think it's helpful to have that.
Okay, all right. Then I will entertain a motion to accept the policy
Can-
that.
Can you just clarify to me, so Melinda had said the superintendent shall ensure that notice is provided to all employees, period. So
Period.
you took out
That's
the
it.
rest of that paragraph?
And the one that follows.
And the one that
So
follows.
it ends right there.
Okay, good, all right.
That's the motion that I would
So moved.
entertain.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Say aye.
was there a second?
Say aye.
Aye.
Good,
Aye.
great, motion passes. Okay, terrific. Hey, we got 2. Let's try to get one more, and then we can move on.
Yeah, we're at like 32%.
What, battery powered our cell phone?
We're at 20% right now.
Is it 20? I thought it was higher.
9:30.
Oh, all right, oh, you're right.
Okay.
what do we have?
So I'm gonna take my
Equal
time.
opportunity.
I'll help you too.
I think, so did we use the track the changes on this one, Nancy?
This one did, it seems.
Yes. So there were some other groups that are included
Yeah, it
in
was just a-
protected
Okay.
groups, so
Yep.
we just updated the protected.
That sounds great to
You
me.
guys talked about it.
Okay.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Comments?
What are we looking at?
Equal opportunity,
Exactly.
the last one, equal opportunity employment statement. Last revised and reaffirmed 11/15.
I didn't have a lot of comments about this. I just had, it's just kind of a question of interest. It says, Carlisle Public Schools does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, blah, blah, blah. What is, it refers to color.
Is color not a politically
I don't know,
correct
it's in
word?
it,
Ethnicity?
what does
It's
that
in the
mean?
list.
Is it,
Sorry, Josh.
Where's
We
ethnicity?
accept all
Is it
and then
like-
insert all racial slurs here?
no, I just don't know, like,
It
what
feels
this.
wrong, though.
Where is that verbatim from the law?
It's, because it's in
I believe
this one, and
so.
it's also in the MASC one as well.
Where does ethnicity come in?
Is that race?
No, it may just be what it says it is.
Yeah, true.
Well, no, actually it isn't. And I have some funny stories to tell you sometime.
We don't have time, because we're working on like
Yeah.
22%.
But no, they're not exactly the same.
It's gonna fall into policy.
So is this following the word, you
I
read
think
something?
it follows the
something-
word, like color is, it's
It's
something we
still-
don't discriminate.
They still
with.
say color? That seems kind of.
I just don't know, like, what is that referring to?
Is that like hair color?
All right, no, it was just a
No
question, I
lines.
don't know, somebody
Don't
knew,
discriminate
somebody
against
could,
Color, but not by ethnicity.
somebody
Yeah.
could
David, I've
shed more
traveled
light on it, but maybe
extensively
that's
in
what it
countries
means.
Just the
that
parents.
have predominantly people of African descent,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
actually there is discrimination on color in some of them.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that, but
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
saying, the term color seems like,
Antiquated.
colored, it seems like.
That's a different term.
Well, that's a different.
I know,
term.
but I'm saying, is this the
it-
law, or
is this
are we
like-
just parroting the law?
I think it's the word, I think
Okay,
it's
I'm
it's the
fine.
list
You
of
know, I'm
I didn't know,
protected
I
words.
just wanted to know, like, what is this really?
But why, my question then is, why is ethnicity, is genetic information and ancestry a substitute for ethnicity?
Valid
No,
question.
Yeah.
ancestry is place. Ethnicity is not necessarily place.
So why is ethnicity not a term in here?
Feel free to add it.
Good question. We can add it.
Okay, so put it in somewhere.
Right after national origin.
Wait, isn't that
Oh, national origin is
Is-
ethnicity, okay, there you go. You got
national
it.
origin?
Well, is
Yeah.
it though? No, that's not right either. It's not the same. Just put ethnicity so we cover it.
All right, we'll put ethnicity in. Mrs.
Okay,
Anderson.
that's my comment. Any other comments?
Well, we're there. Do you want to add citizenship?
Yes.
No, that's not true, because you can discriminate.
No, you cannot. Only if, you're allowed to ask, do they have the right to work unrestricted in this country?
Okay,
That's all you can ask.
okay.
Work without
You
restriction.
do have to get an I-9, right, when you
Yes.
hire somebody? Right?
Yes.
But if someone's here on a permanent resident status, there's no restriction.
Maybe
right?
appropriate documentation, but.
Then say add
I
citizenship.
don't know, I think that that's difficult because there's certain requirements, I don't think we should mess with that. If there's certain requirements for
No, they have to be
employment.
eligible, they have to be
Eligible to
eligible.
work. That
But if
doesn't mean-
they,
Not
if
for
they're,
us to clarify.
if they're Persian, they come from, Iran, but they have a green card, that's okay, right? They're.
Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
passport they hold, it matters that they hold.
If they have
I
an
agree with you.
EAD, then yeah, but, or,
So, okay, so far we have ethnicity and citizenship added. Any other? Okay, take a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
okay.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Policies, it is painful, you're right, it is painful. It's so painful. Okay, okay. Jim, communication and correspondence? Any of note?
Mrs. Anderson, do we have any communication correspondences?
One thing in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I want the Cliff Note version of the superintendent's report.
Seems like we always give the Cliff Note version. So a couple of things worth mentioning. So this past month, we had one of our outstanding tech assistants, retired, Annette Johnson retired. So we appreciate all the work she did for us. And she's been, how long has been, she's been here as long as I've been here, but she was here a little longer than that.
A little bit longer.
But, so Annette left us in February, so we are in the process of looking to fill that position as we move forward. Nancy and Scott and the administrative team and Amy Smack have been involved with Power School training and working on the transition to Power School, so in the last couple of weeks, there's been a great deal of training in that process.
How's it going?
It's going quite well.
Great.
Mrs. Anderson, you want to talk, or Christine, you want to talk about the,
Yeah, they walked
Today's-
us through a sample of it today, together online, and I mean, it's very simple, but she proved to us it was very simple.
Is this the Power School representative?
Yeah.
What is Power School?
Oh, was that today?
Power School.
Today was just the example of the online registration process that we're going to have. Instead of sending you home with all those packets in May that you have to update
Okay.
and send back, and Amy has to try to figure out what things.
They ask for the same information like 6 different
So
times.
what's happening is Scott is doing
it's
a
all
data
gonna be-
migration from our existing system into the new
Exactly.
one, and then parents will be directed to go online and review the information and check or make changes online.
Correct, with like an online signature and all
Mhm.
that.
And if
then
you change your address in the
parents-
middle of the year, you can change it.
You can change your phone number, you can check, presumably you can check and uncheck whether you allow yourself to be in the directory, or if you are
No,
allowed
that's-
photographs or
No,
media.
that's not the directory.
The media release is on it.
Media release.
No, but
The,
for the PTO, I would recommend having a checkbox to say, do you, allow to be in the directory? And so
I don't know, I think I would leave that up to the sales ability of the PTO.
I remember we were talking about the capabilities, like you could do the media release, like I allow my child to be photographed, check it or not. Do you know what I mean?
That's
So
in there.
things like that are also in there, right?
That's in the this is just the registration.
Now, what about the
portal.
nurse stuff?
medical stuff's in there
You can
too.
give ibuprofen.
That's what we revised.
And your emergency contacts.
It's gonna be so
And the
good.
emergency contacts.
Yeah.
And for the whole.
It's all
thing.
great.
And then all the incoming kindergartners will now register that way too. There'll be no paper
That's
packets
great.
sent home to kindergartners.
So stuff keyed in once.
I know.
Makes it
I
nice
know,
and
right? Yeah.
clean data.
you're doing a fine job, Mrs. Anderson.
It's right, Mrs. Anderson.
Mrs. Anderson's heading that up, you're doing a great job.
True.
Okay, what else you got?
So we're also, the tech committee met this month, and the tech committee's looking at not a new website, but a new template for the website. So the company that we work with, they offer a variety of templates. Ours is somewhat outdated. They're gonna we're looking to move to one that's more.
This stuff. I offered before, nobody.
Okay.
But I still offer.
we'll have them get in touch with you. We're just looking to make some subtle modifications, at least make it
Different.
better on your mobile devices, right? So you can actually see what's on the website.
Yeah.
Responsive.
Mrs. Prey was able to close the bus contract.
Yay.
Nice
You're gonna
work.
Give it to me to
Wanna
sign. And
What are
favorable,
we-
what can you tell us
Summarize the
about it?
dollars?
So it came in originally at a 14% increase.
God.
Yeah.
14?
Which would have been the same for 3 years, and then it would jump for another, I forget what percent, 12% the third, fourth, or fifth year.
So they're gonna use
So I
Hummers.
called them and I said, we'd like to have a conversation and renegotiate. He came in already with his altered plan to present. The first year is 8, the second year is 2.5, and the third year is 2.5. So
What was the-
overall,
That's,
it comes in less than his original and within the budget.
What's the 8 of it?
Yeah, what was the reason for the jump to 8, the 8?
Increased costs of salaries for his drivers, benefits for his drivers, insurance, and the bus cost to buy buses went up $8,000, I think he said.
Is he moving to electric then?
so his claim is that his costs are going up 8% a year?
No, he didn't say a year, he said next year.
So
And
last,
we
8%.
had locked in a contract where the rate was the same for 2 years, so we didn't see any increase as he increased his
Costs.
costs.
We had any luck in getting other quotes?
No.
No, I sent out, I think, 13 bids.
Does Concord want to bid on it?
We've talked to them.
We've had conversations.
They don't want to bid on it? Or they?
no?
So I sent out 13 bids, and we had a pre-bid conference where you asked people to come in, ask any questions, we discussed the bid, if there's anything going on. The only 2 people that have ever shown up in my history of doing this is Bedford Charter and the gentleman who sells the buses to the bus vendors. He goes to all the bid openings.
Just to see if you might want to buy your own buses, you mean?
He wants to see who he's gonna get to sell buses to.
Because anybody coming is going to need a bus.
Yeah. So, so I like what we ended up with. And we have the option to extend for years 4 and 5. You may not want to do that. But I got prices for all the local towns before he came in, and he was out of sight. He was initially comparing us to a Waltham, a Lexington, a Newton, and I said, no, let's back up and compare us to Westford, Littleton, Bedford, even Bedford's higher.
Harvard?
No, we didn't do Harvard. We did
Foxborough.
Chelmsford, Billerica, Tingsboro.
This is on, what metric do you use?
I would-
Per
Yeah, 'cause
capita,
they're-
per student basis, or what's the?
No.
How do you compare us with those bigger?
So bus companies bid per route. So currently, we're at, I think, 175 per route, or 350 a day per bus.
Per bus, per route.
Yep,
So bigger towns
Per
might.
bus per day.
per day.
Per bus per day.
Oh, so you're
it's
just
the
looking
both-
at-
So
The
350.
middle school and the elementary
Yep.
together?
Yep. So he came in at 399
Yeah.
per bus per day. And we went backwards to 379.
So you presented, maybe it was at the last meeting, modeling of future cost projections showing roughly 1 point something % growth
You mean overall?
overall. How do we manage to
That
1 point something while we're seeing 8% plus?
So next year is a 2.5% increase over this, not next year, 2021. So next year's the jump. I factored like a 10% increase for bus. Even though we usually do a 5% per contract, I did 10 because it's a new one and I know he goes up. So he came down within the range that I had budgeted. Initially, he came in $10,000 over what I had factored. And I said to him, I can't do that.
But-
And if you can't work with us and come down, we'll go out to bid again, and we'll keep going out to bid until you understand. Because no one will bid against them.
Right, so how does that play out if you were to do that? And nobody bids, what do you
Well,
do?
he needs to lock into, I mean, yes, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. We only have one bid coming in. Every community only has one
Right.
bid. They won't bid against each
And
other.
I get that, but,
So I would just keep, I wouldn't
No
lock it in. till-
okay, we need Mueller, Robert Mueller should get into it. So,
He's very
you said
busy.
that you cited some per route figures from other towns in the 350?
Yep,
So how does he justify being higher than the surrounding towns? A route is a route, right?
So
Same
do
number
we
of
have,
children,
do
mostly?
we have comparable per bus per, like, that was a new number when I sat
Yeah.
there. Because the information I gathered from other districts was more along the lines of percent increases. And when we looked at percentage increases,
No, I have.
we were in, the space that we ended up was better than the space that many districts ended up in their percentage increases. But the per bus
yeah,
per
they
day
still-
number was a new
So like,
data point that
real
wasn't.
cost.
That is, that's the number I need to look at.
Littleton just settled a bus contract for 5 years. It's a 25% increase over the, it's 5 every year for 5 years.
Yeah, but it's where you start that counts, right? So if they're
Right, but-
$25 higher.
So we're starting at 8, but we go down to 2.5.
No, but that's what,
The percent-
just saying, the percentage is not really relevant. I mean, it is relevant, but the main thing is, where do we start with the cost per route? So I guess we need to see that. I need to see that.
I have that.
So if he's higher, why would he be higher? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but no matter how big the town, unless it's really geographically spread out, you've got the 30 kids on a bus or whatever, and you have a route, it's probably
Do so many.
comparable time, right?
No.
No?
A community like Lexington,
Yeah.
they may pay $470 a route.
Why?
I can't tell you, except they have tiers of buses, so they have high school buses, they have middle school buses, they have elementary. We only have 6 buses.
No, but that's not,
So I guess fundamentally, is it market priced or is it cost plus?
It's cost plus.
If it's cost plus, then what affects their cost
yeah,
structure?
that's right.
Well, he explained, it's, all of a sudden, he says, we have to pay our drivers 3 sick days a year. I said, wait a minute. Our employees all have 10 to 75 sick days a year. What do you mean you have to pay them? Well, in order to keep a good driver, even if they don't use them, we pay
Okay,
them.
but presumably all the bus companies have the same, I presume it's kind of.
We're all in the same labor market for bus drivers.
Yeah, right. And
So we're
buses
out
and-
in the suburbs, and I wanted him to compare us to the Westford Littleton.
And so he did that, right? But then they came in at what price per route?
No, he didn't. Initially, he came in at $3.99.
No, I know that, but did he eventually do the comparables with Westford and Littleton?
I knew them, but yes, he brought
Okay,
them in.
And so what are those?
So the lowest was $358,
Yep,
and we came in at $379.
okay,
Others go up over $400.
okay. So could we get him down to 358?
No way. We're at $350. There's no way he's only
All
going
right,
to go up
so
$8.
350 plus 2.5% or whatever that is, right? No?
The overall
I'm telling you, it's a good,
I would say.
federal inflation target is
From my
2%. We've gone through that for
observations,
years.
What were the increases for the last 2
Sue
years?
did a nice job negotiating the price for the bus.
Yep.
This is a significant cost to the district.
yes,
Absolutely.
it's huge.
I mean, this is not,
What were the increases the last 2 years?
So the contract we are ending is a 5-year. The first 3 years, it was $330, I think, a route per day. It
So it was
went
the
up-
same level for 3 years?
Same level for
Okay.
3 years, then it went up to $350 for
Which
the
one?
last 2 years. And now we're starting all over with a new 5-year. It could be a 3, you can opt not to renew after 3 and go out to bid again. Or you can say, we'll stick with the 5-year and lock in.
So his argument for that jump is that he had kept level cost for 3 years and
Well, I opted to go this different rate every year for 3 years because it ended up coming in cheaper
cheaper overall.
than the initial rate that he did.
So your recommendation is 3 or 5?
Well, it doesn't matter, you just sign it, we can opt later to extend.
It's our option.
Yeah.
But it's a locked-in increase?
It's a locked-in 3 with an option.
No, but I mean, is the rate increase for years 4 and 5
What would
already
it
locked
be, do we
in?
know, or is it just?
He has them on that, if we opt for it, we know what they are, I
Which
can't
is-
tell you, I
Okay.
know.
But,
But,
okay, but it's written in. If we
Yes.
opt, it's our option, and if we
Yes.
take
We
it,
already
it's already
know
written.
the
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Susan.
Sorry to go down
Thank
that
you.
road,
Thank you for
No, it's okay.
but it is, it
working on
is.
it, and
Do we have a one-year option?
It'd be nice if we.
So that just buy us time to pursue other options to get them out of here?
Yeah, it'll be the 8%. That won't be great.
No, but can we just go with a one-year contract with a plan to replace them? Because right now, the time's running out on getting something for September, or August now.
Well, for him too, though, right?
right, I honestly, Josh, every year that we've negotiated bus contract, I've called different vendors and asked them, please come in and just present. They will not do it, they will not compete against.
Because they don't want to be competed against either, right? So nothing changes. Is it, you're saying basically
Absolutely.
every town has its bus company for life?
So like they do
That can take
Bedford,
advantage of the
they-
town? I mean, it sounds like we're acting like we're over a barrel, but I don't believe we are. If buses are freely purchasable, and there are leasing companies from which you can get buses, what does it take to run a bus company? Not the proposing that we
Well,
run
then we'd
one.
be like Concord. Didn't Concord opt for its
I'm not
own?
proposing we run one, but why not drive folks who potentially could or be interested in running them into competition with these folks?
I try every
She
time we
tries.
go bid.
You talk to existing bus companies. They don't want to have their existing business cannibalized.
Yeah, but you're talking about standing up a
I'm
new
not
bus
creating a
company?
bus company.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about creating one.
I know, but it's a lot of work to,
I'm not talking about creating one. I'm talking about getting someone to create one with the promise of a six bus route. We're doing it.
I think bus driving is more complicated. It's not Uber, right? I mean, there's a lot of issues. I would be a
and
little
I will
nervous
tell you
about
one comment made by every vendor that I call personally. It's very hard to get a bus driver these
Yeah.
days. Very hard.
Well, after we terminate our contract with them, it'll look pretty easy for the new bus company to get those drivers.
That's not true. Those drivers are employed by Bedford Charter, who also drive for Bedford.
Well, not the same drivers. They drive for us during the school time, right?
Yeah, but some are part-time.
Well, anyway, I think we're getting in the weeds. Let me
good to
analyze,
have
let me take with you, I'll sit down, we'll look at the contract, and we'll
Sure.
see if we really don't like it. I guess we could go back and we could say, we want a 1 year. We're not happy. I mean, there may be some signaling value to say, you know what, we're really not happy with you guys. We'll
And
take a
we've
1
said
year, let's
that.
talk about a 1 year, and sharpen your pencil. You know, I don't know how much leverage we have, because like you say, they,
Right.
anyway. Okay, let's move on. I want to button up by 10 if we can,
Thank you.
because we
Well,
have
yeah,
still.
go fast. So on March 4th, we had our first snow day. We implemented the Husky Home Learning Day. We put surveys out to faculty. We've had about 55 faculty members and staff take the survey. And just, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of responses that we have to weed through. But about 87% found that a better option than snow day. Parents, we had about 266 respondents to the survey. I'm just looking at this one piece. There's a lot of anecdotal information we have. And there was about 66% found that as a better option. So they listed many more concerns.
Better than just taking the day off, you mean? Is
Better
that-
than adding a day to the end
Right,
of
that's
the
the
year.
comparison.
Wait, six-
Okay.
So there's a dip, like that's a drop. There was a lot more feedback about the effectiveness and whether they went along with it from the parents.
Interesting.
There was a little more.
when you're counting responses, how did you, because, you know, I was asked to fill it out for each kid, so I have 2.
This data is simply, there's the pie chart
Number-
that's generated on that one question. Did you think it's a better option or not?
Did
So-
Melinda count as one
She counts
choice or
as
two?
So she would count as 2.
2, right.
It's
How
two
many
kids,
people
right?
responded in that? On that?
So there's 266 parents responded,
266 separate responses,
separate responses,
Yep.
with fewer than that parents.
fewer than that.
Yeah, but that's okay, that's how to, still decent.
So there's a lot of data, as I said, this is just really
So you're gonna come back and-
superficial information, yeah. So we're gonna have to look through all the responses, because there's a lot of,
But your early read is, it
Insights.
was a good thing.
my early read was the majority of people saw it as a good thing. Many people saw some things that need to be tweaked and
Yeah.
fine-tuned.
Well, that's useful to know.
And that's parents, that's teachers, that's students.
That's
Student response is very interesting too. So far, we've had 177 students.
What do they say?
85% saw it as a better option, but there's a lot of wisdom in the responses of the students.
Wow.
As you read and you've got to remember, this is like 5, 6, 7, 8th graders, but as you read what their feedback is, it's pretty interesting. Some of them say it's great, some of it's better than the option. A number of them, would prefer to have the day off, add the day to the end, and then you look at how much time, you can see how much time each of them spent on their work, and we see the diversity. We see that some students spent an hour or less, and we had portions of students who spent 3 or more hours on their work, and that's
No?
a considerable
I say
thing.
teach my kids. All right.
So that's good information. We'll
Was
be
it compliance?
analyzing that.
The percent of kids who completed.
We are counting that as a day, yeah.
I mean,
that's
was it a good,
great.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, I think, I'd have to look back at the slides, but I think from the teachers' responses, the vast majority still had like 85% or more students completed.
Great.
So report cards are coming out this Friday. We got a summer camp activity fair is next week on the 26th. Parent-teacher conferences next Tuesday and Wednesday. MCAS assessments, everybody's looking forward to that. Those start April 1st, no joke. Looking back, we had Shakespeare and Company was here on February 15th to work with our 8th graders. And always, that's a wonderful experience for our 8th graders. Read Across America, thank you to Kathy Macklis and her team, and the PTO for sponsoring that. That was back on the 26th, 27th, 28th. And thank you to all the community readers who came in to support that program. And of course, the faculty and staff, the door decorating, again, if you walk the halls, much of it's still up there. It's really beautiful, bright, great atmosphere. 7th grade play Once Upon a Mattress this past weekend. That was incredible. Thank you to all the students and all the faculty, staff, and the parents who made that possible. You say thank you to Peter when you're home. That was
Yeah.
an incredible show, just outstanding as
still
always.
recovering.
This past Monday, our 7th graders participated in the Challenge Day program again this year for the 3rd year. Again, Matt took part in that, I took part in that. We found it was really just a wonderful program for those students to come together. Last night, the band and chorus concert, wonderful performance by the band and chorus. They're going to be doing the same show at Mechanics Hall next Wednesday night. It's in Worcester, so that's their field trip, and then they're going to be doing the performance Wednesday night. There's also master planning here next Wednesday night. 321. So what's today? That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
The Early Act Club does a lot of charitable work. They are hosting a Veterans Appreciation Luncheon tomorrow here at school. What else do we have here? So then I mentioned March 26th, we're having the conversation about the 5th grade. We're going to have a couple of sessions of that in the morning and then in the evening, and then we scheduled another coffee for the Friday, the 29th. And also, everyone was made aware that our student services director will not be returning at the end of this year for next year, so we're getting the search committee together. I just developed a timeline this morning, shared it out with some key people, getting feedback from them. Probably tomorrow I'll be sending out to a variety of groups of people who might be interested in serving on that committee. And of course, we would need a member from this committee to serve on that committee. So think about that.
How long is the search process expected to take?
That's a good
I know
question.
it's hard to know, but.
I think the timeline I created, it would be wonderful, wishful thinking, January, February, March, April, May 8th. It would be wonderful to be able to identify someone for the May 8th meeting of the school committee.
Wow.
But we'll see. The timeline has a little, there's flexibility there. It's coming up.
That may be, but
So-
we're also competing with Concord.
Where's the vacation in there?
The
This is
vacation
superintendent
is,
hire, right? It's not a school committee hire,
over
right?
this period.
There's a school committee
4/12/23.
component, right? What is it?
So the committee identifies finalists. That
We
was
approved the
some
contract.
research
Yeah.
and,
We have some over.
Background
right?
checks.
What is it?
You can give him oversight to hire,
Yeah.
but it is school committee that hires the director.
We hire, it's our.
yes, this is,
It was
Oh,
our hire.
It's our hire. Okay. Very good.
So, do we then have to drive the process?
I think we delegate.
Oh, so when are we included in the process?
Well, we should have, the question is how many members? It sounds like maybe 2 members, though.
That would be
School
great.
committee,
It's okay, because it'll be an executive,
okay. Yeah. I mean, that's what we did with superintendent search, right? We had
the
2.
executive anyways,
Yeah, until we get to the finalists.
Right.
but you'll have to post it.
And the meetings will be posted. We'll do all that.
Right, that's-
So 2, I
I
would
think that would
say
be
2,
good.
2 volunteers from committee. I'm willing to volunteer one of the slots.
I think I could do it, too.
I'll volunteer.
Did you say yes or no, Kristen?
Yeah, I think I can do it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
interested in doing it.
You could have
Oh,
three.
no.
You could have 3.
I thought you'd have none.
What?
So if you two want to do
We're
it,
not gonna
I
have
didn't
none.
hear you.
no, if you guys want to do it, that's fine.
Well, if it's the school committee's higher, then.
Yeah.
So I'll share the draft timeline
Okay,
with you.
all right.
And you can take a
Okay.
look at that, see if it works.
Yeah, okay.
And then see what they feel. I think that's
Good. All right, you ready at
summation.
5 seconds? Anything else?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay. Any members' committee reports? Be brief, please.
Facilities, briefly, work going on, taking out tanks at the fire station. Big thing is a warrant article for a police station renovation to the tune of $800,000+, and 380-ish thousand other funds for various purposes, including DPW, where we need a salt shed.
Region's looking at setting up a information session for Carlisle about the ring road and the more parking paving over the high school.
Okay. Are they splitting, did they split the warrants?
No,
I
but
did not.
I can tell you that we've been asked to be in a school committee meeting should they suddenly ask us to split it.
Which would be when? When does that mean? Soon? Their town meeting comes up soon, doesn't
Yeah,
it? When is it?
off the top of my head, I look my deadline.
So if they have a
date.
single article, do we split?
No.
No, we have to move it like they
We have to move it
did.
the way they
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
That's a risky strategy.
I know.
That's a pretty risky strategy.
Well, we like living on the edge.
It's not us, yeah, okay.
Maybe it's not risky, they're thinking nobody's going to sink the school.
That's
Well,
the
the
risk.
hard part for Concord is they're also trying to vote on a
Middle
middle
school.
school building.
Yeah, okay.
Right, but it usually leads to a building.
This is the middle school, right? The combo
Yeah.
middle school? That's been around a while, right? We've been talking about that for a little while.
Well, they've tried to go through the MSBA and they didn't get anything.
Right.
Well,
I think they've gone through twice. April 8th is their meeting.
so you're saying that's the one where, that's their town meeting?
Town meeting,
When
Concord
is
Town.
your next school committee meeting?
Next Wednesday.
And that's the one
Or
you think
next
that if
Tuesday.
they're gonna split it, they would?
No. We'll be in session during the town meeting. We would split it.
Oh, you mean it'd be right
Yeah,
there?
we can't split it now.
Oh, I see, okay, because it's in the warrant book already. Okay,
You have to
interesting.
do a motion from.
Anything else on region?
No, we actually had very few meetings lately because they're out selling the high school, the middle school right now.
Feasibility study.
Okay,
I already gave my,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else right now.
okay, good. Okay, warrants.
I have 2 additional warrants that were just signed yesterday. Payroll warrant number 6219 for $381,566.12. And accounts payable warrant number 6419 for $44,170.42.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Action items. This is to vote to allow a teacher's child to attend kindergarten next year. We discussed it last time.
I'll make a motion to allow Megan Cox, kindergartner, to attend next year.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Hey,
We
Megan Cox.
have a
Oh,
few
it's
citizens
yours.
left. Yes.
That's what we're waiting for.
Ms. Yell? Yes?
Carol, Carol. I wanted to make a comment about special education or the Director of Student Services. We just had a recent resignation. The
Yep.
current director is here for 3 years. The current director prior to that was here for 3 years.
That doesn't give a great consistency for students. I think a director of student services plays a really important role. As you can see, it comes up in budget, or budget
Yeah.
times, it flags there, we've got to look at changing scheduling, look at adding on new, changing programming, not programming, what is he calling it, education models and whatnot. I didn't hear any comments in there about special education, how services can be combined in with that. My fear is, one, going in quickly to hire somebody to replace somebody without looking at the education, special education services as they are today. My thoughts are perhaps this is a good time to call in for a consultant to review special education, you know, and what changes can be made, what are we doing right, just look at it completely. We're also looking at a coordinated review in the year 2021. So you're hiring somebody new, they're gonna come in, barely get in here and have to be the one person doing all of that. I mean, that the student services director in our school attends every IEP meeting, in district, out of district. They are, I know they are strapped for time, and now to look at somebody new and looking at all that's going on in the district. It's just a comment I make that has it been discussed? Can you discuss it? Talk about it. Is this the best time? And it's a good time. We have somebody new coming in.
Do we have an option, though?
Do we have?
Do we have an option not to have a director of student services? I don't think we
You
do.
have options, yeah. I mean, I don't know what they are, but do you want to hire somebody?
can hire an
to
interim
go
if
right
you
out
wanna
and
take a
say,
pause, right?
We're bringing
That's-
somebody in directly to replace this person and do all they did.
That's a fair statement.
We've
That's a
just
fair
had
statement.
section people go
Do you
through,
wanna
and is
comment on
this
the
the
West
time
End?
to really review what's going on?
I'm just
I know, you don't need to comment, I'm making the comment, I just
Right.
wanted to throw that.
No, you don't- we don't have to
It's already
answer,
been
but
discussed yet,
right.
I just feel that it's been a long time since there's been a really good, solid consultant review of
Karen.
special education in the district.
Jack was hired, it was good.
Yeah, that's what she's done.
Go ahead.
So that was a few years.
Well, my question was, and that was gonna be my question in this process, what are we gonna do differently this time when we've been through a couple of
Yeah.
rounds here, and I think we need to do something different.
Well, it's our hire, so it may be worth considering the idea of an interim. Are interim available? Is that even available?
That was
I think, she's saying,
I'm just saying they would
I think you're
come in
saying having a consultant come in and look at the program.
Right, but there's a time, there's a calendar issue
Just
with
throwing
that.
out there,
right?
this is a really good time to take a really hard look at what the district's doing and how can we
You raise an excellent
service
point.
better our
What?
students.
She's making up
And,
for nothing.
you know, is that by looking
But
at
are
a
you gonna
different
get
type
your-
of person that's gonna come in and be hired?
Can you
Is that
conclude that
window.
process,
looking at
the
a
point?
review process?
I don't think we have the
companion point is
time
can you-
realistically to go through that
Your
review
consultant
process
comes in and
before
finds things.
this hire.
Then it will
Then
change
we need
the kind of person.
someone,
you
but
hire.
an interim
Right.
Do you have time?
might
for
make
that?
sense.
Right, yeah,
No, I think the
I don't know what
consultant
the
can
answer
tell
is,
us
I'm
what we
just,
have
I'm
and
just
what
putting
they
it
can,
out
what the
there. I
new
mean, our
person can
teachers and
work
staff
with.
need to have the
Right,
supports to
but how do
provide
you
services.
course.
evaluate a new person
They
until
need
you
to
know
have
that?
an understanding if we're gonna
If
change
it's a
scheduling,
change
if
in
we're gonna
direction.
change.
Cynthia said they did
But, yeah.
they had a consultant come in before Jack Dan.
When, not the current director, but the previous director was hired, he came in and then immediately, when he was hired, knowing that a coordinator review was coming up, he did a review. I think he used a consultant, I'm pretty sure he did, who did a review to know what
yeah,
needed to be done before the coordinator review. So that's.
Oh, that consulting, but I think what I interpreted, maybe I
No,
misinterpreted.
I know,
No.
I'm just
Yeah.
giving you
Yeah,
another
that's true.
Right.
Historical
view of how,
resources in there.
in other words, directors sometimes do that on purpose. They get hired and they come in and they review the whole thing,
Right,
both for themselves and to review
right,
what could be done before coordinated review.
right. Which we could do anyway, with or without.
Well, you want someone who's experienced in doing that.
But we
Right,
could also, I think you're saying we could have a consultant, someone come in and do the review, so when the new person comes in, a review has been done, and they can hit the
Yeah, it
ground
doesn't look
running
like
with
that's
that.
the time there. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, I just think that it's time to take.
but I agree that the
Yeah.
process has
Look at
not
where we
worked
are.
well the last two rounds if
We
they,
need to do something different.
if the cycle is that we, try somebody and then discard them twice, we've done, that doesn't reflect well on our process,
I mean,
so.
it's a cycle.
I guess that's a question, I mean, if it is truly our hire, then there is a question to be considered about
Things
the
to talk
process.
about too.
We have a different
Furthermore, on the
administration
timeline,
now, too.
as we're at late March now,
Yeah.
the only way to do that is to simply reset in an interim, get somebody interim. Because as it is.
That's a struggle. An interim is really,
Yeah, this is.
then you have that person come in, and I don't,
And change again.
it's that whole, like, you bring an interim person in, you spend a year trying to introduce them, and then
No, that's fair.
you have another person come in. Because it's not, you make a good point, this is a hit the ground running, this isn't even like many special education director positions where you sit above the fray. This is, you
In
have
the
relationships
trenches.
with students and teachers.
Well,
and
we love that,
all
but
of-
that is,
Yeah, yeah.
that is itself, I mean, let's just take that as an example, and I really, it's a tough issue to get into now, but I love it, you know, my kids are in IEPs, and I do love it that the SPED director sits in the IEPs. But is that really the best model? Again, I mean, maybe
Would
it
that
is
have to be
better
the
to have
model we
somebody
follow
who's-
in the first year if we had an interim person? Not
And that's what
necessarily.
Carol's saying.
No, but I mean, even interim aside, if we're interviewing with an eye towards that person we're interviewing is going to be sitting across from my child in the IEP, that's a different bunch of things you're looking for than if you're looking for an executive who maybe takes a bigger picture. I don't know it, but I'm just saying, that's why I say, taking an assessment of the process can't be unbound from the search criteria.
I think it's too important to rush.
I agree. But how do you not rush? That's the question.
You bring in somebody who's probably well overqualified, late in their career, who for whatever reason, I mean, there are people, whether it be superintendents or principals, who seek interim positions, and have them both stabilize
Yeah.
and help us chart a course for what we're looking for to hire
I
a
mean,
year
that's what
later.
the fire department did, right?
No, we went to somebody who was already in the department. And
No,
I said-
you recruited it, but I'm saying the interim guy.
The interim guy was.
You had an interim guy, right?
No,
you
it was
did?
Bird. He was the
Okay.
fire captain,
Okay.
paramedic.
Interim is difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, my concern for this is that the continuity for these families is so
The institutional
important.
knowledge, it's really getting to know the kids and
And there is a component of this position, which is different than, so someone who's in that space, probably well overqualified, as you said, there are some nuts and bolts that need to be taking place on a daily, weekly basis, such as chairing those meetings. Could we move in a different direction over time? Yes, we could, but next year, in September, in October, someone is gonna need to chair those meetings, and would that person?
In July.
Or July, yeah, or the summer program, like, would that person be willing to get that deep into this, like, because that's a depth that
Well,
those
let's say,
people.
but Jim, just if you recruit somebody and one of the criteria is you sit in every IEP, you get a different person. I mean, it's.
We don't know that that's the model we want 5
I
years,
know,
3 years from
but,
now.
oh, you okay, Tom?
Yeah, that may not be the model, you're right, but that is what the job would entail in
That's
July.
what it entailed the past
Yes.
few years. That doesn't mean starting July 1st what it has to entail.
Correct.
It could be
Night.
different.
It could be vision different,
Bye-bye.
but I think we could transition to something differently, I'm not sure.
Not if we hire somebody for the position as we currently see it.
This is, yeah, I mean,
That's not gonna be that's gonna drive our concept of what that position should be prematurely.
I think that you can hire somebody and part of it is saying, we want an innovator, someone to look at this program, to, capture it as it is, and over the next 5 years, bring it through into the next level. I just really, my child's not on an IEP, but I've known, some of my friends have had kids on IEPs, and I just think the consistency of saying, okay, so you're gonna don't get used to this person, don't build that trust over the next 6 months with this director, because he or she is
Well,
leaving.
but I would say, I mean, since both of my kids are on IEPs, I would say that the trust level is much more at the special educator. Right. As was pointed out earlier, from my view anyway, is that trust level is with the educator and the working team, and it's great that the SPED director shepherds the process. And I think both, in fact, Will and Jack, in my opinion, did a good job at that level. I know that there were shortcomings in other areas, but at that level of running the meeting, they did well. But I don't think my kids identified with the sped
Well, but I'm
director.
not
They
even sure
identified
it's just
with
the
special
kid, though. I
education.
think it's the parent. This is, every year is a new territory for those parents.
So first, I'd like to leave budget and cost out of this discussion for now. And I say that because not only are the kids and the education important, but also this is such a huge
Yeah.
dollar amount that I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish.
Right,
I don't
we
want to
agree,
make a
we agree.
long-term,
Right.
big dollar mistake in order to save money in the short term. And along those lines, whether somebody interim is more expensive or whether they need supplemental support to attend those meetings and to chair those meetings, I would support that if it gives us time to do it right
But nobody,
after that.
the criticism was not about budget at all. It was about continuity of the process.
I had criticism about budget in that our special education funds were growing much faster than our general education.
Right. Which is true probably in all districts, but,
That can't go on forever.
right. So I think we're at a crossroads here where, given the time calendar, I need to clarify, maybe I need Andy or something. Is it truly the school committee's hire?
So in the
'Cause
past, yes.
If it is our
And in the
hire, then we need to
past-
decide what to do.
Past 2 or 3 school,
Yeah.
sped directors, the school committee delegated the superintendent to do the search. And they brought forward their recommendation for the position. So the school committee didn't do the whole interview
But
process.
we did the hire.
You did the
Right.
We did
hire
the final
based on the
interview. We did the-
recommendation.
Just like the nurse.
Yeah, we did
didn't
the,
go out
we
search
did the
for the
final
nurse.
interview,
Yeah.
and many of us participated in the parent interviews and so on.
Right.
And then the hiring selection.
Well, wow.
But we gotta set the direction
I think we
before
need to
that.
Right.
take a look at this role and
Okay, but we don't have a lot of time, so I don't know how to do that. We might need another meeting. We may have to have a meeting just on this topic, because we don't have a lot of time. We can't wait a month.
No.
We have to get on this.
Have you
The
posted
job
it?
description's out there.
It's been posted.
Well, so what? I mean, that's fine, but I think,
My goal was just to kind of like, just,
You
it's
know,
not just about taking and replacing.
we can't
somebody,
just,
but it's
I don't
look
think,
at the
Jim, what I'm
process
hearing
and
is, sorry. I didn't
Make
mean to
sure
cut
all
you.
stakeholders are there at that meeting.
No, but I mean, yes, of course, but I don't think we can just do the cookie cutter thing where we, and I don't want to be, I don't want to, it sounds bad what I'm saying, but we are actually pretty good at hiring here. We get good people, right? Part of it is our reputation, part of it is our process. But just taking a standard process and saying, 3 teachers and 2 school committee members and 6 parents, and we're gonna vet the candidates who come forward, that outcome has now failed twice, right? So I think it is fair to say, maybe before we do that, we need to take a step back, not in the magnitude of the restructuring, but, take a step back and think about what are the qualities. And that's not by committee, that's a smaller group. What are the qualities? What is important about the job?
we need to go into it with that in mind.
Right.
We need to
So
do different-
maybe-
we need to have that.
Maybe we need to have a meeting. What's our
I
notice
think we need
period?
to buy ourselves time to do that right.
Well, that's a debate.
You're
I don't-
saying that it would take
Honestly,
longer than
I don't think
half.
at 10:18 that that's a debate. I think it's worthy of having another school committee meeting, and it's maybe a very focused agenda. And I don't know right now off the top of my head, but that's like a next week thing, maybe.
Same time, same channel?
I can do it. I don't know. What's your,
Master Planning Steering Committee's here, and kids from Mechanics Hall in Worcester.
oh, okay.
That's
I'll
what
be at
I-
Mechanics Hall in Worcester,
And I'll be driving the drums.
Okay,
So you're gonna- yeah,
I'm
so
hearing
yeah,
that that's
everybody's-
not.
I'm the roadie.
What is availability of next
Go out,
week?
do you want me to take them?
What?
It doesn't even have to be in the
You wanna
evening.
drive my bike?
There's no law, right? It could be any time, right? Yes?
Just
When do
wanted
they
to
need to be there?
comment
They need to be
that
there
the
Wednesday, Tuesday.
Department of Education, although it's your
Wednesday.
responsibility for hiring,
Yeah,
By 3
The
o'clock,
Department of
we need to be there,
Education
and they come back
recommends
at 8 p.m.
that it's the
The drums.
hiring of a special
So cool,
educator
yeah.
director be the responsibility of the superintendent, and then approved by the school
approved
committee.
by, so that is
Yeah.
If you
different.
wanna be a part of this too.
Right,
So it is his hire, it's just we
It's
approved.
his
part of this
hire
discussion too?
under you,
We
but you,
Yeah.
you are not
So that
required to
doesn't
do the
count.
hiring, the hiring.
Yeah, I mean,
Doing
I
the-
understood that we
Yeah.
wouldn't be actually driving the process, but
Correct.
setting the specification of the goal
It's-
seems
it's-
to be
They
ours.
suggest the superintendent be in charge of that, but,
They do, okay.
well, I can send you the link.
No, it's okay, I trust you.
How about next Thursday, the 28th?
Convenes and gets their
Um,
Search committee,
Day
search
evening?
committee would convene and.
I
then
can't
look
do
at what
the
their goals are.
28th.
Right,
Okay.
because they are the educators.
And nobody can do the 27th?
that evening is, and if you want to meet during the afternoon.
20, I can meet any
Anything during the day.
time. I don't mind meeting during the day.
I'd love to.
Monday or Tuesdays during the day work for me, other days don't.
I'm fine with that. We'll set some, let me circle back with Jim to make sure we're sort of aligned here on what we need to do.
As today's Wednesday, we have to move quick if we want a
What's
Monday
the
meeting.
notice period? 2 working days?
48 hours of business hours.
So if we decided by tomorrow, that would be Friday, Monday, we could meet Tuesday, right?
Yes,
So just-
we have to decide tomorrow morning to meet Monday.
Right, but we could decide tomorrow to meet Tuesday.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, is it like first thing in the morning kind of thing, you guys, or what do you like?
On
And
Tuesdays,
then-
I have a municipal facilities committee meeting, generally 8 to 10 on
Okay.
Tuesdays.
How about other people?
Tuesday, the 26th,
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying, what time of the day works for you?
it varies depending on
And
the
how
day.
about for you, Jim?
I can rearrange, things. Tuesday's not a good, Tuesday morning, it wouldn't work well for me,
No, not me either, actually.
because we have the fourth grade parents in the morning, and then in the evening, fourth grade at 7, so I can
How
do.
about midday Tuesday?
Uh,
Or 11 o'clock or something like that?
11 o'clock would work for me.
I can't do till 1.
Okay, does 1 o'clock Tuesday work for you, Jim?
That's actually, there's no
I can-
school in the afternoon, right?
Oh, yeah, we don't know.
Early release.
Yeah, early release. You wanna do that?
Yeah, Tuesday afternoon works well.
Tuesday afternoon, you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What time?
You tell us, you're
I-
signing your
I
schedule.
have something at 1:30. So before that?
It's tough to be after 2 and before 1:30.
Yeah, right. How long does your 1:30 go?
Oh,
How long does your 1:30 go?
the afternoon isn't
Isn't
good. I
good
mean,
for you.
What about noon time? Does noon work?
I can't,
Oh,
but
you
you
can't
could
do that.
have it.
No, you should.
Let's
and
you and
what's
I.
Wednesday, what was Wednesday looking like for people during the day?
I'm fine. It's professional day, but they have band trips and things, right?
Yeah, they,
Midnight, yeah. Old Josh has got to move materials.
Morning?
Thursday is looking, like
Wednesday
Thursday looks pretty good.
morning I
for
could
me.
do Wednesday.
Wednesday
I'm
morning?
supposed to be.
I can do Wednesday morning, David.
Wednesday
Wednesday
morning?
morning looks okay.
Okay,
I
let's,
think.
Wednesday morning works.
I feel like there's some.
Early, early?
Professional.
We'll do it.
Anytime.
When's the thing, Jim?
I like-
I
on
can start
Wednesday?
at
The
7 or so, I
fourth
can't
grade
do much
thing?
before that.
Okay.
The
The fourth grade,
fourth grade is on the Tuesday and the Friday, so
Okay.
Wednesday is not.
no, okay, so the
So, like 8 AM?
Oh, I love it.
Wednesday, 8 AM?
Are you kidding?
No, you don't like those hours. You can show up or not. I mean, we don't, I mean,
Maybe.
Well, if you weren't going to show up, we could do Tuesday at
Yeah.
2. I mean,
well, mornings are better, right? Because we convene in.
Yes, I want my, yeah. How about 8:30 at Melinda?
okay.
What's your threshold?
what time do you like?
For meetings, 10 or after. I am most productive at work from 8 to 10,
I understand.
so, and
Oh,
then,
I see.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I don't care. I don't care. Pick it.
so 8:30 is okay.
8:30?
I can do 8:30.
8:30 Wednesday.
Yeah, I could do 10, I guess. I mean, I could do 10 on Wednesdays. That's
You
easier
know.
for Melinda, and she's, don't want to take up her productive time.
I don't care.
We just want our own productive time.
What do you, Christine, what do you want?
I'd like 8:30. But I can do later if we need to.
I'm ambivalent. So one vote for 10, one vote for 8:30.
I gotta come back to Carlisle
How about
by
you?
2 to
I'm
get
fine.
the
I
drums.
can move it around.
If it's an 8:30 meeting, I'm not leaving and going to the office at all, because there's just no time. If we
Right.
did a 10, I could go in for a couple hours before that.
So you on 10?
But it's not, at that point, I'm driving a lot for 2 hours in the office.
Right. Where's your office?
Hudson.
Oh, yeah, that's a long way to go. How about 9?
It's the same. 10 o'clock or later,
Okay.
I come
Why
back.
don't we do- okay.
Because any earlier than that, I just stay.
Let's do 8:30, let's do 8:30 and just get it done. 8:30 Wednesday, and we could do it in the little room? We
Yeah,
don't need
Spalding,
this-
we can hold
Yeah,
it.
the little
Just
conference
post this Spalding?
We'll let them know.
Yeah, we'll check the room's availability.
And then that'll be
Should be
posted
fine.
and
Because there's no school.
Cynthia, you will.
If you don't have a room here, we can even
Okay.
do town hall.
All right,
No, we
okay,
actually have
okay.
space that.
Can we have a motion to adjourn
To executive session?
to executive session? And I'll read it.
You can't.
We can't?
No, you can't read it, right?
Oh, you have to read it. Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, with no intent to return to open session for the following purposes. Purpose 2, to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. And Purpose 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law, federal grant and aid requirements, Mass General laws, blah, blah, blah. Consideration, oh yes, for consideration of release of executive session minutes from previous meetings.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
No.
A roll call vote.
Gambino, aye?
Modell, aye?
Lyra?
Blodsky, aye.
Okay.